Paul Finebaum here. In the South, we love football and Crystal. The hot off the grill Crystal burger is the perfect complement to any tailgate. Take a steamer pack of 24 Crystals to your tailgate. Why didn't I think of that? Plus, Crystal knows you love wings. Barbecue or buffalo wings, Crystal is the stop for all of your cravings this fall. Text Paul, that is P-A-U-L, to 37793, and Crystal will hook you up with 2 free Crystals. Nobody does football like the South, and nobody does tailgates like Crystal. Welcome you to the day after. The day after what? Welcome to Wednesday on our program. So glad you are with us for the next 4 hours. We will try to keep you company, driving home, getting home, having a drink, water, or whatever you feel like doing on this Wednesday afternoon. Let's get started with some headlines right now. T. Martin, he was the name everyone was watching. But he's going to be watching his alma mater from California. He decided to stay there. He wanted to be the head coach. He did not want to be a coordinator. Let's tee it up for T.
Did you talk to Tennessee about that position for yourself?
Yeah, I did. It was something that, it was a situation where if I was going to go back to Tennessee, it was to be as the head coach and not as a coordinator. And I made that message very clear. So when I was out of that discussion, then they moved on to do what they had to do.
They did indeed. Meanwhile, Shea Patterson is doing what he needs to do. He gave an interview to the Toledo Blade saying, I'm really not one to jump ship on anything, but I'm really big on setting goals and achieving them at Ole Miss. I don't have an opportunity to do that. Things didn't shake out the way I planned. Coach Freeze got fired. The 2-year bowl ban, I couldn't look back on it after college and say I never got an opportunity to play for something like that. From what I'm hearing, I'm pretty sure that I will win the NCAA waiver and be able to play next year. That is Shea Patterson pretty much saying, thanks, Ole Miss, but I'm not missing a bowl game this year, and I'm not missing one next year. I'm done. I'm going to the University of Michigan, where I'm going to play for Jim Harbaugh. More headlines on this Wednesday afternoon. While hiring Nick Saban's next coordinator won't be easy this time, who wants the job? Last time it was pretty simple. Just move over Jeremy Pruitt. And meanwhile, you may have heard about the election in Alabama. Nick Saban picked up a number of write-in votes. We don't know how many, but we do know that the election was decided by 21,000 votes, and there were 23,000 write-ins. Did Saban get the majority of those, and did Nick Saban cost the Republican, Roy Moore, the election? Roy Moore is a West Point graduate. Never heard him talk about Alabama football, but the person who won, Doug Jones, the Democrat, is an avid Crimson Tide fan. So maybe there was something going on there. Anyway, enough of politics. I think we heard enough of that last night. We'll get to your phone calls. We'll get to a really big show here in a minute. What do we got on the program? Thank you. You've answered. Dave Matter covers Mizzou. Brian Davis covers Texas. We'll talk about that matchup. It is the earliest SEC matchup. It's a good one, too. Who wants it? Meanwhile, Pete Thamel, one of the best writers on college football for Sports Illustrated, he'll tell us who won and who lost. If you're a Tennessee fan, you might want to turn the radio down. We welcome you to Wednesday, middle of the week. Yes, we have made it in spite of everything. We look forward to talking to you at 855-242-7285. Let's get some phone calls going here and see what is on the minds of people. I can't wait. Danny starts us off. Danny, welcome to the show. Good afternoon.
Hi, Paul. How you doing, bud?
We're doing great.
I just got a couple of comments about a few of your callers. That Jim from Tuscaloosa, he's led a fairy tale life, obviously. And I'm just wondering, what horse was he riding when he won the Triple Crown? And who did he drive for in the NASCAR circuit? And one more about Darryl from Georgia. He hates Alabama with a passion for some reason. And I just trying to figure out what his problem is. and tell him, please wash that turd out of his mouth. We can't understand him, and I appreciate it, Paul.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you called, and I'll tell Daryl to do just that. Let's go to Kelly up next in Kentucky. Welcome to our show. Good afternoon, Kelly.
Good afternoon, Paul. First-time caller. I wanted to first say I'm very, very appreciative of what you do for all of us who love college football. Thanks so very much for that. My question today is how would you grade Ed Orgeron this season? I feel like that he deserves probably about a B-. I'm a longtime LSU fan. I date back to the days of John Ferguson, listening to him on Saturday night. So longtime LSU fan. I think Ed deserves about a B-. Want to know what your thoughts were. How would you grade him? I see it as LSU had two totally different seasons. The first half of the season was a tremendous debacle. We lost 37-7 to a team that has only beaten us 3 times in the last 25 years. Then the nation's longest out-of-conference win streak comes to an end when we play Troy. They came in and beat us. Then there was the meeting with Joe, I am the search Oliva, and all the coordinators evidently get on the same page, and we go 5-1 to end the season. So I wanted to see what your thoughts were on that turnaround. How much of that can be attributed to Orgeron, and kind of what do you see in your crystal ball for LSU in 2018?
Kelly, I would say this. Among the many coaching questions coming into the season, and there were plenty, Malzahn, Bielema, Sumlin, I had a lot about Ed Orgeron, and I think he answered all of them by the end of the season. You are correct. The front part was hard to watch, but that's why I think you have to give Orgeron so much credit, that he made mistakes, and Joe Oliva, to his credit, saw these mistakes being made. He brought everyone in. At the time, it looked abnormal, but it got the problem solved, and I thought the second half of the season was spectacular. I mean, even the Alabama game was very competitive, and you know, if LSU can wrap this thing up with a bowl win, then I think you have to say this was a really good season for LSU.
And I agree with you, Paul. A 10-win season in Baton Rouge with all that went on this season, we're going to take it and run with it. Now the season gets a little tougher next season. We add Miami, the first game of the season. Of course, that's out of conference, and that's at Dallas at that site, and then we add Georgia to the schedule. So the schedule doesn't favor us, but I like you. I think Ed deserves a lot of credit for what they brought in at the end of the year.
No, I really liked it. Hey, thank you very much. And I don't think he got enough credit because, you know, so many of us, including myself, fixated on the Troy loss. But you know, he quickly turned that around, went down to Florida and won a narrow game, came down to an extra point, I think. The win over Auburn was spectacular. He really dominated a lot of teams down the stretch. Very, very impressed. Let's continue with more phone calls here at 855-242-7285. Andy is in Dothan, Alabama. Hello, Andy. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul. Great show. Enjoy listening to you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Paul. I was looking over the schedule next year for Texas A&M, and I think that I can see them losing 3, possibly 4 ball games. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, they have Alabama and Clemson at the beginning of the year, so I mean those are losses in my mind, and I haven't studied it very closely, but I do know they're at Auburn, they're probably at Alabama if I remember the schedule from this year.
Yes, sir, they are.
So, I mean,
South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what. I'm not making excuses for Jimbo Fisher at nearly $8 million a year. He can make his own excuses, but that is a very challenging schedule. I mean, it's hard to imagine that you're going to get out of Clemson and Alabama alive, and then that stretch right now in October at South Carolina, at Mississippi State, at Auburn. Those could be 3 losses right there. So, I mean, you could have 5 losses going into the LSU game.
All right, Paul. Well, I appreciate the show. I enjoy it, and keep up the good work.
I mean, thanks. I mean, it may not. I mean, listen, here we are. We're already picking next year's. I mean, we love it that much. Paul Finebaum here. In the South, we love football and Crystal. The hot off the grill Crystal burger is the perfect complement to any tailgate. Take a steamer pack of 24 Crystals to your tailgate. Why didn't I think of that? Plus, Crystal knows you love wings. Barbecue or buffalo wings, Crystal is the stop for all of your cravings this fall. Text Paul, that is P-A-U-L, to 37793, and Crystal will hook you up with 2 free Crystals. Nobody does football like the South, and nobody does tailgates like Crystal. Welcome you to the day after. The day after what? Welcome to Wednesday on our program. So glad you are with us for the next 4 hours. We will try to keep you company, driving home, getting home, having a drink, water, or whatever you feel like doing on this Wednesday afternoon. Let's get started with some headlines right now. T. Martin, he was the name everyone was watching. But he's going to be watching his alma mater from California. He decided to stay there. He wanted to be the head coach. He did not want to be a coordinator. Let's tee it up for T.
Did you talk to Tennessee about that position for yourself?
Yeah, I did. It was something that, it was a situation where if I was going to go back to Tennessee, it was to be as the head coach and not as the coordinator. And I made that message very clear. So when I was out of that discussion, then they moved on to do what they had to do.
They did indeed. Meanwhile, Shea Patterson is doing what he needs to do. He gave an interview to the Toledo Blade saying, I'm really not one to jump ship on anything, but I'm really big on setting goals and achieving them at Ole Miss. I don't have an opportunity to do that. Things didn't shake out the way I planned. Coach Freeze got fired. The 2-year bowl ban, I couldn't look back on it after college and say I never got an opportunity to play for something like that. From what I'm hearing, I'm pretty sure that I will win the NCAA waiver and be able to play next year. That is Shea Patterson pretty much saying, thanks, Ole Miss, but I'm not missing a bowl game this year, and I'm not missing one next year. I'm done. I'm going to the University of Michigan, where I'm going to play for Jim Harbaugh. More headlines on this Wednesday afternoon. Why hiring Nick Saban's next coordinator won't be easy this time. Who wants the job? Last time it was pretty simple. Just move over Jeremy Pruitt. And meanwhile, you may have heard about the election in Alabama. Nick Saban picked up a number of write-in votes. We don't know how many, but we do know that the election was decided by 21,000 votes, and there were 23,000 write-ins. Did Saban get the majority of those, and did Nick Saban cost the Republican, Roy Moore, the election? Roy Moore is a West Point graduate. Never heard him talk about Alabama football, but the person who won, Doug Jones, the Democrat, is an avid Crimson Tide fan. So maybe there was something going on there. Anyway, enough of politics. I think we heard enough of that last night. We'll get to your phone calls. We'll get to a really big show here in a minute. What do we got on the program? Thank you. You've answered. Dave Matter covers Mizzou. Brian Davis covers Texas. We'll talk about that matchup. It is the earliest SEC matchup. It's a good one, too. Who wants it? Meanwhile, Pete Thamel, one of the best writers on college football for Sports Illustrated, he'll tell us who won and who lost. If you're a Tennessee fan, you might want to turn the radio down. We welcome you to Wednesday, middle of the week. Yes, we have made it in spite of everything. We look forward to talking to you at 855-242-7285. Let's get some phone calls going here and see what is on the minds of people. I can't wait. Danny starts us off. Danny, welcome to the show. Good afternoon.
Hi, Paul. How you doing, bud?
We're doing great.
I just got a couple of comments about a few of your callers. That Jim from Tuscaloosa, he's led a fairy tale life, obviously, and I'm just wondering, what horse was he riding when he won the Triple Crown, and who did he drive for in the NASCAR circuit? And one more about Darrell from Georgia. He hates Alabama with a passion for some reason. And I just trying to figure out what his problem is. and tell him, please wash that turd out of his mouth. We can't understand him, and I appreciate it, Paul.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you called, and I'll tell Darryl to do just that. Let's go to Kelly up next in Kentucky. Welcome to our show. Good afternoon, Kelly.
Good afternoon, Paul. First-time caller. I wanted to first say I'm very, very appreciative of what you do for all of us who love college football. Thanks so very much for that. My question today is how would you grade Ed Orgeron this season? I feel like that he deserves probably about a B-. I'm a longtime LSU fan. I date back to the days of John Ferguson listening to him on Saturday night. So longtime LSU fan. I think Ed deserves about a B-. Want to know what your thoughts were. How would you grade him? I see it as LSU had two totally different seasons. The first half of the season was a tremendous debacle. We lost 37-7 to a team that has only beaten us 3 times in the last 25 years. Then the nation's longest out-of-conference win streak comes to an end when we play Troy. They came in and beat us. Then there was the meeting with Joe, I am the search, Oliva, and all the coordinators evidently get on the same page, and we go 5-1 to end the season. So I wanted to see what your thoughts were on that turnaround. How much of that can be attributed to Orgeron, and kind of what do you see in your crystal ball for LSU in 2018?
Kelly, I would say this. Among the many coaching questions coming into the season, and there were plenty, Malzahn, Bielema, Sumlin, I had a lot about Ed Orgeron, and I think he answered all of them by the end of the season. You are correct. The front part was hard to watch, but that's why I think you have to give Orgeron so much credit, that he made mistakes, and Joe Oliva, to his credit, saw these mistakes being made. He brought everyone in. At the time, it looked abnormal, but it got the problem solved, and I thought the second half of the season was spectacular. I mean, even the Alabama game was very competitive, and you know, if LSU can wrap this thing up with a bowl win, then I think you have to say this was a really good season for LSU.
And I agree with you, Paul. A 10-win season in Baton Rouge with all that went on this season, we're going to take it and run with it. Now the season gets a little tougher next season. We add Miami, the first game of the season. Of course, that's out of conference, and that's at Dallas at that site, and then we add Georgia to the schedule. So the schedule doesn't favor us, but I like you. I think Ed deserves a lot of credit for what they brought in at the end of the year.
No, I really liked it. Hey, thank you very much. And I don't think he got enough credit because, you know, so many of us, including myself, fixated on the Troy loss. But you know, he quickly turned that around, went down to Florida and won a narrow game, came down to an extra point, I think. The win over Auburn was spectacular. He really dominated a lot of teams down the stretch. Very, very impressed. Let's continue with more phone calls here at 855-242-7285. Andy is in Dothan, Alabama. Hello, Andy. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul. Great show. Enjoy listening to you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Paul. I was looking over the schedule next year for Texas A&M, and I think that I can see them losing 3, possibly 4 ball games. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, they have Alabama and Clemson at the beginning of the year, so I mean those are losses in my mind, and I haven't studied it very closely, but I do know they're at Auburn, they're probably at Alabama if I remember the schedule from this year.
Yes, sir, they are.
So, I mean,
South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what. I'm not making excuses for Jimbo Fisher at nearly $8 million a year. He can make his own excuses, but that is a very challenging schedule. I mean, it's hard to imagine that you're going to get out of Clemson and Alabama alive, and then that stretch right now in October at South Carolina, at Mississippi State, at Auburn. Those could be 3 losses right there. So, I mean, you could have 5 losses going into the LSU game.
All right, Paul. Well, I appreciate the show. I enjoy it, and keep up the good work.
I mean, thanks. I mean, it may not. I mean, listen, here we are. We're already picking next year's. I mean, we love it that much. We're going to go ahead and start predicting the 18 season. But, yeah, I think Jimbo Fisher just needs to get his imprint on that program and change the culture a little bit. I'm not going to get too hung up on what he does during his first year. I mean, Jimbo Fisher was not brought.
You buried Tim James before he got before he got started.
Yeah, but I was in Alabama back then. I don't feel like I should try to affect the outcome of the Alabama election
Okay,
while
what
I'm
was the
somewhere
guy's
else.
name? I can't even remember. Richard, what's his name?
Which one?
The one that was against against Tim. The guy that went to prison, Paul. You know, your friend, your other good friend.
Hey, Jim, I've had so many friends go to prison.
One of your many criminal friends that you.
I honestly can't remember all of my friends who were in prison. Or that was Richard Scrushy, I think.
Yeah, Richard Scrushy.
Yeah.
Richard screws you.
Scrushy.
Anyway, this is a fun show, Paul.
Hey, by the way, Jim, I went through a stretch in Alabama. I bet I had five friends in prison simultaneously.
I know you did. You had exactly 5 in prison at the same time. And Siegelman went in the next month, and you had 6.
And then you had the mayor of Birmingham, Langford.
But is Larry still around?
He's still in prison.
You know, what did he call me? What did he call me that day? I can't remember. He called me
He called you a turkey.
A turkey, that's right.
By the way, Jim, I used to go to the federal pen. I didn't even have to show ID. They just said, come on in. Hey, wait, Mr. Finebaum, come on in.
Now, that's hilarious. This is good stuff, Paul. This will win the award.
Yeah.
By the way, talking about the award, they called me a while ago. They wanted to know how they can get in touch with Danny, the first caller that couldn't stand me, said I was in a fairy tale. Let me tell you something, Danny. If it was a fairy tale, I would never hear your voice. So this is no fairy tale. But they want to get in touch with him. They want to give him the. Wait a minute, I got to think about how it goes. The Don't Hate Jim Because You Ain't Him award.
I hear it. No, that's it, Jim. Well, listen, you go back to your pizza. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you go back to Ed, all right?
That's okay.
Thank you.
Grab some more phone calls at 855-242-7285. Joe is in Chicago. Hello, Joe.
Hi there, Paul.
Hi there.
First-time caller. I was just going to call and talk about the Alabama 2 lapses in defense they had last year against Clemson. They were both the same thing.
Okay.
And they had Clemson had 2 wide receivers on the right-hand side down close to the goal line both times. And both times they ran a rub play, which they crossed. And Alabama players had to go follow them. I don't understand why that was. It's like 4 people running through a phone booth at the same time. Why couldn't Alabama players just take the one that came off their side if they switched?
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy about that, Joe. A lot of people thought it was a legal pick, but what I really can't believe is we're still talking about that. That game was 51 weeks ago. Anybody care about that play in that game? Apparently. Joe is in Pittsburgh. We go from Chi-Town to Pittsburgh. How are you, Joe?
I'm all right. How you doing, Paul?
We're doing great. Thank you.
All right. I just wanted to I'm an Alabama fan from Alabama, Rogersville. Just had a couple. Just wanted to know your thoughts on our defense with the injuries coming back. We should have everyone back but Hamilton, right?
That is correct. I mean, listen, he's the only one that definitely won't be back. I think the other ones are back. Exactly what condition? I think a few of them came back for the championship, not the championship game. Alabama wasn't in the championship game for the Auburn game. But I think by 3 weeks from now, Alabama is going to be in very good shape.
I think so too. It's just a matter of execution, and you can't. We got Saban, so let's hope.
You got it. Thank you for the call. I do appreciate it. Let's go to Sheriff next. We had a great conversation with him the other day. How are you, Sheriff?
Good, man. How are you?
We are doing fantastic.
Hey, look, on Jim's speech he just had, sounded pretty good. Did he get it delivered to the 8th hole of the golf course he's playing on, or what?
I got the impression, and this is just my opinion of Jim. Tell me something. Does it cost more to have a pizza delivered?
I'm not. Okay, I figured in Jim's case,
there's no way.
There's no way. Had a drone to drop it off.
I mean, Jim was talking about the $8.75. I'm betting. I don't know what you guys think in the booth, that Jim went to pick it up. Jim is not a guy that's going to pay anything more than he has to for a pizza delivery.
I bet Jim didn't drive. I bet he's got a chauffeur.
No, Jim does drive.
But he doesn't pay a chauffeur.
Do you think Jim takes Uber to the pizza place?
Heck yeah. I know Uber pays him to go. overpays him to come pick him up.
Jim is a guy that he's spotted all over Tuscaloosa. When I was there, I don't know, I was there a couple of months ago. I had a couple of Jim spottings.
Yeah, well, I mean, with all his
Jim's a big foodie. I mean, Jim's always,
man, he ought to be spotted all over the place.
We were at the Rammer Jammer there, and they said Jim came by for the like $1 hot dog or whatever. But there was some deal on hot dogs. Jim's a bargain hunter.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like he's pretty cheap.
Well,
like
I don't know if
cheap.
Hey, Sheriff, I don't know if cheap is the right word for it.
Tight, maybe tight.
Tight. Let's see. Tight, frugal, thrifty. What's that?
Yeah. Do you think he goes to?
Miserly?
You think he goes to the thrift store to buy his clothes?
You know, I grew up like that. My mother wouldn't buy anything full price.
Well, so, I mean, I wear some of those too, but
I mean, my mother walked in the store. What's on sale? It doesn't matter if it's like garbage, but that's the only place she would look. I mean, she wouldn't pay full price for a Snickers bar.
Really? Hey, but the thrift store kind of sounds like the saving rant from a couple of weeks ago about the hole in the jeans and their tight jeans. You know, when he said that he got embarrassed to wear holy jeans.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah, you know, so that kind of sounds like that. But anyway, I just didn't know if Jim was on the golf course or something at Tuscaloosa Country Club or what.
I just think Jim is just has a touch of he's a bit parsimonious, don't you think?
Yeah, he's that. He's an antagonist. He's I don't know. If we keep talking to him, Paul, he may end up about 7 or 8 different Hall of Fames.
He's already. Hold on a second, Sheriff. I think we got an update. Jim, did you go to the pizza, Paul, or did they?
Certainly. You know me well. I'm not going. You don't have to pay anything for delivery, but I love to go over there and pick it up and look at it and see what it looks like and
I get it.
Check it out, you know, and see the girls and enjoy myself. By the way, I did get in from 18. We started at 10:30, finished up about 2, went straight to the pizza place by myself, picked it up, came back home.
So you would agree? I mean, you would deny that you're tight-fisted, right?
No, I'm frugal, like you said. My grandmother raised me that way, frugal.
Yeah, Jim,
it's a Jewish thing.
Well, thanks, Jim.
It's a Jewish thing.
Well, you know, Roy Moore's lawyer was Jewish. I mean, I heard that the other night.
Well, I don't care. But most of them are rich, but they still are tight. How about you? You're pretty tight, Paul. I got reviews on you.
Jim, I don't know if I think we really need you going off on the entire Jewish race.
No, I'm going off on. Okay, I'm not going off on Jews. That's a compliment, Paul. People that are close with their money, I think that's a compliment.
So, Jim, so the word on me is that I'm cheap, huh?
No, just close, tight.
Tight. Well, listen, I just got through admitting it. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, you did.
You know, that's how I was brought up.
I was too, Paul. I was brought up around a lot of Jewish people too.
Yeah, well, so was I.
Yeah.
I never really thought of them as Jewish people. I just thought of them as like my parents.
Tell the people, I bring it out of you. I bring out this A material, don't I?
Yeah, I mean, if you think making fun of Jews is a material, I guess that's it.
No, what we're doing is interesting stuff. It'll get Sheriff calling back in and thinking about it, and wanting to knock me down and whatever. Because little people like Sheriff love to belittle people. That's what little people do. They belittle somebody that's better than them.
Hey, by the way, Jim, you sound better now. I think that pizza has energized you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. After 18 holes, and then I needed the pizza.
So what did you?
It's a delicious pizza.
Jim, isn't it a little bit cold in Alabama to be playing golf?
I don't care. I used to play at 7 in the morning when it was 35 degrees, Paul.
Okay.
That's when that makes it fun to toughen it out. You feel like it's a British Open. Open?
Not that it's critical, but how did you play?
Well, I shot 78.
78.
And that's a little, I haven't been playing, Paul. I don't play much anymore.
And how'd you do on the back nine?
Isn't that funny? Boy, you're so funny.
I was just
hey, Big Mouth. You want to tee it up with me, buddy?
Yeah, I'll play you, Jim.
Okay, come on with it, and we'll put something on it where I can get rich like you are.
As you know, I don't play golf anymore, but I could get back in golf shape. Where do you want to play?
Tuscaloosa Country Club.
Okay, I've never played there. Yeah, I have. I think I've been there. Was that Brian's Country Club?
No, that was Indian Hills.
Indian Hills.
Indian Hills.
No, I have not played at Tuscaloosa. I think I've been there for an event, but okay, let's play.
That's where I got the hole-in-one, where I got beat on the hole-in-one that day.
When would you like to play, Jim?
It's whatever's convenient for you, Paul. I'm at your leisure.
Okay. Well, I tell you what. Would you? Since I have not played in about 9 months.
See, I know what this is about. See, the audience doesn't know, but I know how tricky you are. You want to do everything you can to get me in public, where you and you can get tons of people to come see you.
Exactly. Jim,
I know what this is about, Paul.
We will. Mark, John, can we televise this live?
And, hey, Paul, by the way, I will be sending a proxy for me.
We will have live coverage of this, Jim.
Yeah, I know. And you'll never know what I look like because my proxy will be there.
Well, no, Jim, you'll have to be there if I play.
And you're funny, Paul. This is hilarious. I love this. The show's getting better
You're more than welcome.
By
the way, one more thing, Jim. You know, I don't think it's all that interesting. I mean, I'd like to. Why don't we each invite one person to play with us?
I know you'll get Laura.
I was thinking more of Justin Thomas, but that's okay.
Has Laura played golf? Now she's a sports girl. Does she know how to play?
Who's that?
Laura. Laura, Rutledge.
I have never discussed golf with her. I don't think she plays
golf. Well, that's something y'all ought to discuss. That might make the thing interesting.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll let you ask her. She'll be here tomorrow.
Oh, really? Good. Everybody loves to see her. They love to see her.
Hey, Jim, have you ever made your own pizza?
You know what? No, I haven't, but I've got a friend that makes a better pizza than you'll ever find at any pizza place. He is outstanding. It would take too long to tell you.
So, Jim, one more time. You played this morning at Tuscaloosa Country Club?
What did I say?
You said Tuscaloosa Country Club.
Well, what did I say? If I said it, didn't I?
I thought that's what you said.
What, you want to go study the course now?
No, I don't care about the course. I mean, I'll play. I'll play you at midnight Paul, if you want.
What we're doing is we're going to call Ned to call back in for another 15 minutes.
Hey, Jim, I will play you at midnight if you want.
Now, this is something. I had to tell you to get on the balls of your feet 8 or 9 years ago, which let you know I could play.
No, you're right. I remember that. Okay, we'll hook up, Jim. We're gonna bring. You can bring anybody you want. As long as they're not professional. I'll bring a friend, and you bring a friend. Good stuff. Let's continue. And Nick is in Georgia. Nick, what's up with you?
Hey, Paul. What's going on today, buddy?
We are doing great.
Hey, Paul, I want to comment on that call that you had earlier from Dixie. Down in Arkansas.
Yeah.
You hear me? You remember she called? Yeah. Why don't Dixie worry about Arkansas's football program rather than Alabama's politics?
Well, I think last night, Nick, pretty much the entire world was concerned with Alabama politics.
And why is that?
You live in Georgia, right?
Yeah, I live in Georgia. I was born in Birmingham, an Alabama fan since I was 3 years old, and I'm 62.
Good. Well, I'm not gonna defend her because I didn't agree with a lot of what she said, but politics is, the senator from your state or my state or any state does have an impact on everyone.
Well, that's true, Paul. I agree with that. And old Jim calling in, I like Jim. I like when Jim calls in. He was eating a Domino's pizza.
I hate to tell Jim, but we're getting information that the Country Club of Tuscaloosa closed about a year ago. So if he played there today, then he played without tees and flags and mowed greens.
Yeah, old Jim. I like Jim. I'm just eating a pizza here at Pat's Place in America, so they got some great pizza. So I just want to let him know if he's ever in this area, come see me.
You got it, bud. Al is in Texas, and you are next up. Hey, Al.
Hey, Paul, enjoy the show. First-time caller. I really enjoy yours and Laura's comments on football. And
thank you.
You're welcome. You think Jimbo is going to have a good chance of turning Texas A&M around?
I most certainly do, yes.
Well, if you don't have the horses, you can't win in any league, and I'm hoping he's going to be able to recruit, and within maybe 2 years, possibly maybe win the West. If you can win the West, doggone it, you got a good chance of being a national champion. So, but that's a big if because every week it's almost a top 10 team.
Yeah, but to me, this was a daring decision by A&M. They went after the best coach they could possibly get, and Jimbo Fisher has credentials. Now, sometimes it's difficult to do it someplace else, but it's been done before, and I think he has a real shot. But the expectations are going to be through the roof at A&M.
Yeah, we're really hoping, and man, we could sure use some success around here. We were close a few times, Johnny Manziel days, but man, we would like to be back on top again, and I think Jimbo's going to be our man.
I hope he is. He's a very good coach. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Ned is up next. Ned, good afternoon.
Hi, Paul.
Hi there.
Man, I love you. I love the show. I love all the callers, including Jim.
Thank you very much.
Jim is probably the smartest caller you got. He might be a little bit smarter than you.
Most people are.
I'm a very cool person, but I can tell Jim this. I can beat Jim with 8 golf clubs, and I'll putt left-handed.
Okay, well then, I may have you be my partner that day. Unfortunately, the country club the golf course that he has us booked on, though, is a goat ranch right now.
Let's play at Indian Hills.
But I do think we will be able to find someplace else to play. That's smart of Jim. Jim does not want to be seen in public, so he tells us to show up at a golf club that closed a year ago.
Paul Finebaum here. In the South, we love football and Crystal. The Hot Off the Grill Crystal Burger is the perfect complement to any tailgate. Take a steamer pack of 24 Crystals to your tailgate. Why didn't I think of that? Plus, Crystal knows you love wings. Barbecue or buffalo wings, Crystal is the stop for all of your cravings this fall. Text Paul, that is P-A-U-L, to 37793, and Crystal will hook you up with 2 free Crystals. Nobody does football like the South, and nobody does tailgates like Crystal.
We welcome all of you back to the program. Thank you for being here on a Wednesday afternoon. Jim from Tuscaloosa challenged me to a golf match at the Country Club of Tuscaloosa, but according to this tweet from about a year ago, it is no more. Looks like the Country Club of Tuscaloosa stopped play February 28th, 2016. So that's where Jim said he played this morning. Not that I'm doubting Jim, of course. CNN has an update. I don't know where to go, guys. What?
We're in the Situation Room right now, trying to find the truth of where Jim played.
Now, do we need should we get Jim on the horn to react to this?
If he's willing to come on and admit that he lied.
Yeah. By the way, we should explain to our audience what we're doing here. Our new model.
Wait a minute, pal.
Here we go.
Wait a minute.
There we go.
Hey, you don't think I'm going to tell you where I really played, Paul? You think I'm that stupid? I mean, Ned got it right. I'm a pretty smart guy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want y'all over there finding out all my information. All my information is pertinent where I played. And,
Jim, listen.
And by the way, let me say something else. By the way, you can still go down to where he's talking about the cow pasture that's used to be the country club and still play some.
Jim.
No, you can still play a little bit down there, Paul.
I think you were caught in a lie.
No lie. I just didn't tell you the truth. Hey, I'm going to tell you something, Paul. Seriously. I'm just doing what you told me to do, right?
Yeah, that's true.
No, I'm talking about calling the show and getting it going during the middle of where football season is dull and dead. Yeah. Nothing's going on. You asked me to do that. You told me my present this year for Christmas would be a little bit above the $6.98 copy you gave me last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Seriously, though, I want to tell you a story that's an honest, true story. I was about 15 years old. I could play. I was good. I was a good golfer.
Sure, you could.
But my caddy, who could never play at the Tuscaloosa Country Club where I played, black guy, cool as he could be. He was a fighter. He was a smart guy.
Did you say a Jewish guy?
No, I don't know. Yeah, he claimed to be. He claimed to be like Sammy Davis Jr. Both of them, I think, went to the same synagogue.
That's great.
Well, anyway, Paul, let me tell the story. This is a true story. I'll give you my word. So I come out there one day, and I'm popping off. By the way, that 5-year running braggadocious award might have to be start going to Ned. He's seems like a bigger bragger than I am. What do you think?
Let me see what the guys in the other room, how they're reacting to all this. Guys, you awake?
Okay, let me tell the story. You're trying to make fun of me?
Jim, I hate to interrupt you, but I really don't want to hear the story.
Well, you do want to hear. This is a good story.
No, I think
let's put it up for a vote.
Okay, who wants to hear Jim's story? Rob?
If you don't listen to it, I'm
Rob
not
is
calling
hiding
back
behind
again.
the camera today. Jim, you got outvoted.
I don't care. This is a good story, Paul.
Well, email it to me. Let's go to I-Man next.
You know, Paul, good afternoon for one thing. And how about the state of Alabama stepping up to the plate? And, of course, as usual, Jim's on the losing side of things. He's on the losing lion side. You know, that's a country song, the losing lion side of life. All he needs is a pickup truck and a dog.
Is that a country song?
It will be. I mean, you wrote one. I can write one. The losing lion side of life. Playing golf where there ain't no golf course at a country club that don't exist. You got to love it. I mean, I bet he's going to call Art Bell and talk about them Martians again. I mean, I can a grown man call this radio show knowing it's going all over the world and out of space and just bold-face lie like that. It don't make no sense. Them pills, them doctors giving him them special pills. Them's real special pills. Them ain't sugar pills, ladies and gentlemen. You don't you take them pills and drive and operate heavy machinery. And wear a hard hat and steel-toe boots, because it's obvious Jim has dropped a steel-toe boot on his nose. Paul, how can a grown man that can pick up a telephone lie so boldly and convincingly like that and believe it? Have you ever seen such mess? Such stuff as that? Just lie like hell. Lie. Have a good day.
Thank you. Lie. Andre is up next. How are you, Andre?
Coach Paul Finebaum. Thanks for taking my call, Coach.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, I was listening to the caller earlier from the Arkansas fan talking about the Chief coming over there, the defensive coordinator. She wasn't lying, Coach. The man was overrated. If you look at the type of NFL player, defensive players that LSU has in the NFL, and the man wasn't able to produce any more than he did when he was at LSU, he sold Texas A&M a bag of goods and got both of them ran out of town.
You're right.
You think he's gonna end up at Arkansas, Coach?
I do not know, but I'm not overly optimistic that he will.
Coach, what do you think, though? The jury's still out on Coach Orgeron. I don't like the man personally. I think him and Oliva both need to go. What do you think, though, Coach? You fan
I'm not ready to say that, because I think he had a really good year this year. I think this was a critical season. I think he was in trouble after that Troy game, and he came back well. Whether you like him or not, I think he did a good job. Now, one year will not determine his future, but he won the right year. I'll say that.
Well, I'll tell you this here. This thing could take him and Oliva down together, Coach. I mean, it could be the same situation as was up in Knoxville. Both of them going out together. So I don't know, Coach. But anyway, Coach, I always enjoy listening to your show. I think Jim might be a little bit upset about Moore, but he ain't.
Yeah, Jim's having a very uneven day, I would say. We tried to help him. In the end, we just had to move on.
Well, Coach, you called him in a blatant lie about the golf course, but the way he covered it up and said, well, he wasn't lying. He just didn't tell you the truth, but whatever. Hey, thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Good to hear from you. Let's continue with more phone calls. And Jacob is in Athens, Georgia. Hello, Jacob. How are you?
I'm good, Paul. Hope you're doing well.
I am, thanks.
I'm trying to talk a little Rose Bowl. Listen, I'm in Athens right now. I've watched all of Oklahoma's games as well as Georgia games. And I think that Baker Mayfield, Lincoln Riley, and that offensive line are just going to set the Rose Bowl ablaze. I really don't think the Dogs have any chance. I mean,
really?
What are you thinking on that? Yeah.
I totally disagree, but I happen to think they are, but again, we're 2.5 weeks off. I'll leave it to the analysts and the experts to break down. But to say they don't have a chance to me is a stretch.
I think Lincoln Riley's going to have a couple wrinkles for Kirby Smart, and the Dogs' D-line, I don't think it's going to compare to the O-line of Oklahoma. It's just, they're strong. They're just strong. I think they're going to eat a couple wins out there in Pasadena.
Well, thanks for the insight. Good to hear from you. Let's continue with more phone calls. And Andy is also in Georgia, and you are next up. Hey, Andy.
Hey, how you doing, Paul? This is Andy Davis.
You got it, Andy. Great to hear from you.
Here from Dawson, Georgia. And anyway, I would just want to talk to you about the 1943 Rose Bowl game. My dad played in it.
Did he really?
He was the right end, and he got the football at the end of the game and took it back to his dad, my grandfather, and they put it in the trunk and saved it. My uncle, Joe Davis, at the time was 17 years old when their house caught fire, and he went in there, and the only thing he could save was the football. So he saved the football that my dad brought back signed by everybody. And Lauren Smith will tell you this is the ball that we ended the game with at the Rose Bowl back in 1943. There's so many tales about it. I wish I could tell you everything I know, but my dad was a very, very good, quiet person. He went on to play pro ball, and then he went on to Douglas, Georgia, which is a hotbed for Georgia, down in South Georgia. And he was a principal with teacher, principal, and then superintendent of schools at Coffee County in Douglas, Georgia. And he played at Georgia, and, there's some film out on that now of the Rose Bowl being played and of the team going by train from Athens all the way out to Los Angeles. And my mom, Sarah Davis Tiff, kept a scrapbook. It's an awesome, awesome scrapbook. I wish I could share it with you, but it's got everything in there from the 1943 Rose Bowl, and I plan to go out there with my two sons, Doug and Drew, and we're going to watch the Rose Bowl ourselves. It's the first time we've been able to go back to out west to the Rose Bowl. Second time, Georgia won the first time 9-0 over UCLA, and it was a great ball game. We even had a fella here from Dalton, Red Boyd, who blocked the punt, scored 2 points. Georgia won 9-0 against UCLA. And I'd like to talk to you sometime. I know I don't have much time here, but I'd like to talk some more about things that have happened there and since then. And one thing that my dad said, that he took the ball down to the 1 yard line on the end around, and then Sinkwich scored on the next play. Well, my dad told me if he'd have known the glory it brought later on in life, that they would never have stopped him on the 1 yard line.
That is such a great story, Andy.
I got great stories for you, and I may call you back sometime.
Well, Andy, listen, I am somewhat familiar with that team, having some friends in Georgia, but I really appreciate you sharing that, and I hope to talk to you and meet you one day.
Okay, it's like I say, it's a great. I'd like to see you and then talk to you about the scrapbook and show it to you. My mom, Sarah Davis Tiff, down in Douglas, put it together back at the time where they were first married, and it's a great, great story.
Well, be well. Thanks for sharing it, and I can't wait for the game. Good to talk to you.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha 990. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Welcome back. As we continue here on the program, let's talk about this game out between Missouri and Texas. A very interesting game. We want to look at both sides of it with people that understand the game, the Academy Sports game in Texas and Missouri. This game is in late December. Dave Matter joining us. Dave, first of all, Thanks for being with us. We've talked a little bit about Barry Odom's turnaround this year, but what do you think was the key to it? I know a lot. I know his eruption got a lot of credit, but was there more to it, or was that the turning point?
I think publicly that was sort of the turning point, but I think kind of behind closed doors, that's kind of been Barry's demeanor, and that's the way that the players bought into his personality and his style, and I really think they just started playing a lot better on defense. And they're not a great defense right now. They struggled some in their final game against Arkansas, but they just weren't making the mistakes. They weren't missing tackles. They started to get some turnovers, and they were able to kind of complement that offense that was pretty good through the first part of the season outside of the Purdue game. And really just be a more complete team. And honestly, too, the schedule helped. I mean, they played a bunch of teams that were really struggling, and they took advantage and really capitalized on having, back-to-back games against Florida and Tennessee and the two non-conference teams that they beat. It just kind of all came together for this team.
Had this season not turned around, I think you've told us before you thought Barry Odom would get more time. But how difficult would it have been without this incredible run at the end?
It would have been really difficult. I mean, we have to remember that Jim Sterk, Missouri's athletics director, did not hire Barry. He was not, tethered to him. With his future didn't depend on how his hire of the football coach went, because he didn't bring him in here. So I'm not saying they had to win 6 games to save his job. But he got an extension last week, and that doesn't happen unless he really sort of gave the signal that he was up for this job. I think that what they did over those 6 games, and really I think you can even throw in the Georgia game before that was as competitive as anybody at that point, and really outside of Auburn played Georgia all year. I think that validated what Barry Odom can do as a head coach. It doesn't mean it's going to get any easier next year. The pressure is still going to be on him. But I think it gave a kind of a peace of mind with Jim Sterk, and okay, this guy can do it. He can win some games and take this team to at least a bowl game, which should always be kind of the minimum expectation.
Let's talk about Drew Lock. A lot of speculation about his future. What do you hear and what do you sense?
Well, he wants to get the information back from the NFL Draft Advisory Council. He wants to do his due diligence, not make any kind of rash decisions. My gut feeling is that he will come back for his senior year, but if he gets a first-round grade, and as of the other day, when last time he spoke to the media, he didn't have that information yet, that's pretty hard to pass up. But there are, I think, some other quarterbacks that probably ahead of him right now as far as just the discussions go, even though he put up, some ridiculous numbers this year, set SEC records and Mizzou records. There's a part of him, too, that I think is curious to see who this offensive coordinator hire is going to be. And he even talked the other day about how it could really be a benefit to him to play for another coordinator in another system, and he won't necessarily be tagged a system quarterback if he can adapt and play for another guy, which he'll have to do next year if he comes back to school.
Talking about the Missouri situation, let's look ahead to this bowl game. Certainly you mentioned Mizzou beating some teams that were pretty bad, some of whom lost coaches. What does this game mean to the Missouri program?
I think it means a lot. I mean, usually these kind of mid-tier bowl games, it's just a matter of who wants to show up and who wants to play, because when you have a month off and maybe it's not a sexy matchup or the destination isn't too exciting, we've seen a lot of teams that kind of just go through the motions. But I think this matchup against Texas, an old Big 12 foe, I think it means a lot. It means a lot to Barry Odom for sure. He was around when, there was tension between Texas and other schools in the Big 12 that ultimately led to the league losing 4 schools, including Missouri. He was reminded of the famous quote from DeLoss Dodds, the former AD at Texas, who I think it was in 2013, said, "Take a school like Missouri. Our bad years are always better than their good years." And that is a quote that has really resonated with Missouri fans. They have not forgotten that, and Barry Odom has not forgotten that. So I think also, too, half of his staff coached at Oklahoma, so their natural rival is Texas. So they will have no trouble getting up for this game, and I think it will mean something to be able to beat a brand-name team like Texas, even though Texas hasn't been Texas for a few years now.
Let me ask you, you mentioned the staff, Heupel heading to UCF. What is the effect of that, immediate and in the intermediate?
Well, for the bowl game, they're just going to kind of go by committee and have what's left of the offensive staff run things right now. Joe John Finley is Missouri's tight ends coach. For now, it appears he's staying on staff, and he's kind of the de facto coordinator. They won't give him that title officially for the bowl game, but he does appear to be running things. They have a grad assistant or an analyst coaching the offensive line because Heupel took Missouri's offensive line coach with him to UCF too. Long term, Odom is talking to multiple people. He has said he prefers somebody that coaches a system similar to what Missouri has been running, this wide open, no huddle spread offense, which is almost the norm in college football today anyway. It's hard to find somebody that doesn't run a system that's similar to this. But he's going to have to find a quarterbacks coach for sure because there's nobody left on the staff that is their specialty. So it'll be interesting to see just the timing of when this happens, when he brings somebody on. I doubt whoever it is would coach in the bowl game, but it really could have an impact on whatever decision Drew Lock ends up ultimately making.
Always great to catch up. Dave Matter, by the way, I know we haven't talked about basketball, but give us the lay of the land there with the big injury to Porter.
It's still sort of a week-to-week waiting game with him. He's not going to play anytime soon. I think Konzo Martin in his mind has just moved forward, and if they get Porter back in whether that's in February or March or maybe not at all, he's going to go ahead with the team he has. And the team he has is pretty good right now. They're 8-2. They've already matched last year's win total, which says more about last year's team than this year's team. And they've played a decently tough non-conference schedule. So he feels pretty good about this group right now.
Back to the program, we were talking about the game in Texas between Mizzou and Texas. Let's bring in Brian Davis from Austin, covers University of Texas. Brian, thanks a lot. Always glad to catch up with you. Before we get to the game, I do want to ask your opinion on the move by Texas, finally filling the athletic directorship, and a lot of positive praise. Exactly how this came about and what does it mean?
Hey, Paul, how are you? I mean, well, the first thing is I cannot see how far this home run has gone of a hire for Greg Finvez, the university president. I think that he felt like he needed to make a move to jolt the fan base. The football team goes 6-6. Everybody around here was a little bit sour about how it all ended. And so, they knew they needed to get an AD, and so he pulls the trigger, stealing Chris Del Conte away from TCU, an incredible fundraiser, a guy who knows how to handle billionaires and Joe Sixpack. I mean, I think he's a perfect – if you can't get Joe Castiglione out of Oklahoma, then if you can't get Nick Saban, then this is Urban Meyer. I think this is an Urban Meyer level hire for Texas.
That's really interesting. You don't hear that very often in relation to a AD hire. So Tom Herman a year ago, the AD hire this week. Let's talk about this bowl game. We were talking to a friend of ours in Missouri a minute ago, Dave Matter, and I didn't get a lot of enthusiasm from Missouri for this game. What's it like on the Texas side?
Are you telling me that teams aren't 6-6 teams aren't excited to play or post Christmas bowl games? I mean, come on. No, I think for Texas, if this was on a playground across the street from campus, they should be excited. I mean, this is the first bowl game in 3 years for this group, and so and I would almost call it a capital letters must win, because if they don't win this game, Paul, they're going to go through off season and they're going to say, oh, Texas now with 4 straight losing seasons. You don't want that to be said about your program. And so, but Texas is going to be shorthanded when they do it. Deshaun Elliott, safety, is already pulled out of the game. Connor Williams, the All-American tackle, is already pulled out. We think Malik Jefferson is going to pull out of this game as well. Holton Hill is still suspended. So there's a lot of names that are going to be on the sideline for these guys.
Would that tend to favor Missouri with so many big timers not in the game?
I think it would, especially when you look at their quarterback. I mean, anyone who's thrown 2 more touchdown passes than the Heisman Trophy winner, he's pretty good.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's at stake. You mentioned, some of these players have reasons, but what are some of the other explanations? Is it just the same we heard last year? Why bother?
Well, I mean, I know this. I know that in 2014, in Charlie Strong's first season, Texas had zero excitement going to the Texas Bowl, but they were in the exact same position, 6-6. Everybody was kind of down in the dumps about it, and they just got thumped by Arkansas. Only 59 total yards in that game that day, and that turned out to be the only bowl game Charlie Strong played in, right? So, at a lot of schools, bowl games get taken for granted, but you can't take this stuff for granted, especially if you're a program like Texas, you're trying to get back on your feet and get back to national relevance. So I say that both these teams should go down and enjoy the Rodeo Bowl on the 22nd and, have a good time in Houston and then show up at NRG Stadium ready to go.
Let's talk about something else for a second, because Texas and A&M are not quite to the degree that they used to be in terms of competition. They're in different leagues now. But with the hiring of Jimbo Fisher for the price that he got, $75 million, what has been the reaction in Austin?
I think the reaction is like, wow, they really did it. A&M really swung for the fence and connected. I mean, it's not, there's not many people here talking and taunting A&M and, oh, that's going to blow up in their face. No, I mean, there's a lot of people here that have a lot of reserved feelings about it. Part of it because Texas is 6-6 right now. But, I mean, $75 million, that's a lot of money, even to Texas, right? And so I think that there's just a lot of wait and see, like, wow, let's see if this works out for the Aggies. I mean, I personally think with Jimbo Fisher at A&M, now they got Crystal Conte here, I think we're going to hear more talk about getting this rivalry going again here in the coming years, and they should. I'm fully on board. I think they should play that game. But still, though, I mean, like I said, $75 million for Jimbo Fisher, that's a lot of money. And he just got Tim Brewster to join the staff from Florida State. I thought that was a big-time hire for recruiting purposes.
Yeah, let me follow that up from a recruiting standpoint, because certainly I don't live out there, you do, but one expected Tom Herman to have an immediate impact. Maybe it will take a little longer, but with Jimbo, I mean, how do Texas people feel about Herman now? Disappointing year? Do they feel like he was worth all the hype last year, especially when you compare him to what A&M has in a national championship coach and one of the highest paid coaches in the country?
Yeah, well, timing's everything in this deal, and I've already told some people here, let's not engage in revisionist history. 1 year ago on Thanksgiving Day, you guys panicked that, oh, my God, Tom Herman's going to go to LSU. Hurry up and do something, Finbez, right? Well, he did. He went and got the coach that everybody wanted at that time. And so, now they're 6-6, and everybody wants 10-2 or 12-0 immediately. Well, it just doesn't work like that. And you look at the recruiting class Herman has assembled. It's probably going to be either number 1 or number 2 in the recruiting services rankings. That's pretty good, for a first year out of the box. And so, yes, it was bumpy. Yes, it was rockier than I think some people thought. But the defense played outstanding. I thought they just need to find an offense to go with it.
Finally, I mentioned A&M. What about Oklahoma? What do Texas fans feel about Lincoln Riley in his first year, not only winning, having the Heisman Trophy winner Baker Mayfield, but heading to the college football playoff?
It's funny. I mean, OU is supposed to be Texas's biggest rival, but people here, at least in Austin, that they just don't talk trash about OU. They just don't. And I think it's a level of respect that OU commands, at least in this part of the world. You look at what the Sooners have done, Stoops stepping down the way he did. I mean, that could have really been incredibly disruptive to their entire organization, and yet here they are in the playoffs, like you said. And Baker Mayfield, a lot of people here love him because he is an Austin guy. He's from Lake Travis High School, which is right here in western Austin area. A lot of people here are proud of that. And so there's just not a lot of feelings about OU. It's more admiration, I would say. It's like, wow, how are they getting it done and Texas isn't?
Last question on Baker. Going back to when he was in high school, I don't want to beat up on Mac Brown. I think he was still there. But what happened there? Was he overlooked, or did everyone just miss on him?
I think a lot of people missed on him. He went to Tech because no one would give him a deal, right? No one would give him a scholarship, and so yes, it is fair to criticize Mac for that. But
he has a few Heisman Trophy winners that he let go.
Exactly. Robert Griffin, Baker Mayfield. Take your pick on all these guys, and so. But nobody else wanted him either, and so right. I think it's one of those issues where nobody really said anything at the time, and to Baker's credit, he made it work, and now everybody likes to pick on Mac about that.
Well, yeah, there are a few more to add to Mac's resume. Jameis Winston, his coach, told me once that he wanted to go to Texas, that they wouldn't call him, and you know the rest of the narrative. It doesn't matter. Mac's alive and well and working at ESPN. He doesn't care about all that.
What's funny, Paul, is that at the College Football Awards show last week, I had a long talk with J.T. Barrett, and he's another one. He says, "Yeah, I really wanted to go to Texas, and I never got an offer." And I said, "Well, it's kind of worked out for you, hasn't it?" He just laughed. He says, "Oh yeah, I am proud to be a Buckeye." And I said, "Well, good for you, man. Good for you."
That's hilarious. Hey, Brian, appreciate your time as always. It's great to catch up.
You bet, Paul. Anytime.
Let's get to the calls, and Rich is in the ATL. What do you say, Rich?
Jack, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, Jack. Nothing could be better.
Jack, I got an idea with all this golf talk. It's actually rooted in reality. And it's just something I want you to think about. You don't have to commit to it now, but I really want you to think about this. Pay attention. Don't text Lane Kiffin. All right?
Hold on a second.
All right. Pay attention, Jack. All right. SEC Media Days is here in Atlanta this year, right?
I read that.
What do you think about us, the Finebaum Show, putting on a charity golf event the day before SEC Media Days, which is a Sunday, and all the proceeds can benefit the Mike Slive Prostate Cancer Research Foundation?
That is a great foundation. I happened to be at the AMC, the opening of that back in September in Birmingham, and it is a phenomenal foundation.
Isn't that cool, man? Think about it. And again, I don't want you to commit to it, but just think about what I'm saying.
Is Jim invited?
No, come on. I said this is reality-based, Jack. Come on. No psychotic sideshow. I'm serious.
Okay.
All right, look. Think of the Atlanta support that we would get, just coworkers and show members. Oh, yeah. You got Laura. Lives here, right? You think she'd help us? Of course she would.
Of course she would.
Maria Taylor, Matt Stenchcombe, David Green, Tony Barnhart, Barrett Salee, all these guys. Then you got 3-hour drive from
Dan Woken.
Like I said, Jack, this is reality based. All right, Dan's invited. Absolutely, it's a charity event. You got 3 hours from Charlotte, so you can bring Hazy, who's coming anyway. Mark, Danny, Burns, Marcus. What do you think about Marcus? If we ask Marcus, hey Marcus, you want to help us with a charity?
Well, he'll be there.
He'd be the first guy there.
Yeah.
Think about what I'm saying. I'm not asking you to commit, and I'm sorry I'm bringing this up in a public forum.
It's okay.
But I was just thinking, maybe we can get some feedback. And then we're 30 minutes from Athens, too, Kirby, McGarity. I'm sure that they would support it. What do you think? And then the other thing is it's ours, so the volunteers can be the callers that don't play. Like, could you imagine Phyllis and Tammy and some of the ladies, Alice and Linda? They'd be the ones checking everybody in at registration. How cool would that be?
And what about Uncle
Ed? If Laura doesn't play golf, if Laura doesn't play golf, she can drive a beer cart. You think she'd enjoy giving Jack his Bud Lights all day for a good cause? They would love that.
What about Uncle Ed? Hold on a second, Rich. Slow down. What about Uncle Ed? What does he do?
Oh, man, I don't know. We'd have to get an air ambulance for him. But I'm telling you, I have a model that works. We could you need to trust me. I know how to do this. We would keep the golf pricing down. where we would make all our money on corporate sponsorships, whole sponsorships, family sponsorships. But you'd have to be involved in this, and that's why I hate to put you on a spot like this, because your name's on the marquee.
Yeah, well,
You're
I'll tell you
Santa.
what.
You kids like Christmas without Santa Claus. Could you reach out to Commissioner Five? I mean, don't you think Commissioner Sankey would go for this if we were in conjunction with SEC?
There's one issue connected to it, and it's a timing issue. But I think there is a way to get around that.
It's the day before. Everybody's coming anyway.
Yeah.
Seriously, man.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Rich. Listen, since you've put me on the spot here, I'll look into it. I'll talk to some people, especially the foundation that's involved, and report back. How about that?
That would be awesome, and we're willing to help. We're willing to do anything we can. We'll even move out of the way, and they can put their name on the marquee, and we'll just be the volunteers and players. I got a foursome with Larry and Johnny from Coleman and Terry Martin. If the out-of-town support we would get, too, the Jabroni brothers, they'd come, Jeff and Jeff. They'd come. Ned could come, and he could play left-handed. And there's a lot of people, I think. That fella Casey that's starting to call now, he's cool. He's a PGA guy up in
listen, all I can do is look into it.
All right. I'm sorry I'm pressing you. It was just a good idea. I just got so sick of listening to all those lies, all these golf lies. I just thought, this would be a pretty cool idea, and what a legacy for us, and even if the event rotates like they're thinking, like if Media Days goes to Nashville next year, or New Orleans or wherever it could go, we could keep up this Mike's Live every year. I think it's a great idea, Jack, and I'm willing to do it. I know how to do that. All right, buddy.
Thank you very much. Good to hear from you, Rich. Bob is in Chattanooga. Hey, Bob.
Hey, good day, Paul. I have about 3 fast deals here. One is the more I've learned about you, the more I admire you.
Thank you very much.
I mean that. Number 2 is the new coach at Tennessee walking into the same empty bucket that Jones walked into. I don't think he is. I think that they have more talent now than they had when Jones came there. But it wasn't coached up. It didn't work. They wasted a lot of talent, in my opinion. What's your opinion on that?
I agree with that. I think the situation is slightly better, yes.
I do think that Jeremy has a lot better chance of winning in a short time than Bush did. And number 3 is off SEC, but with the Yankees, with the acquisitions they made. And
Bob, hate to run. We are up against a break.
This week, tune in to the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
Welcome back to our show. Glad you were with us. Pete Thamel will join us shortly. We've had a lot of conversation today already, and we will get right to it. 855-242-7285. One of our favorite callers is Bobby in Birmingham.
How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, Bobby. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I heard you talking with that Texas A&M fan, Al, earlier. He asked you, he said, well, what about Jimbo Fisher? You say, well, that's why y'all hired him to win SEC championships and national championships. And that's what you told me. Paul.
Yeah, I'm listening, Bobby. You don't like is this another SEC coach you don't like?
No, I'm just saying
Is there a coach in the SEC you like that isn't named Nick Saban?
No. But I just want to tell Al, if you're listening, Al, don't bleed Paul. Jimbo better keep his bags packed. or when he run that gauntlet in the SEC West. It ain't like playing Wake Forest or Duke. You got to play Auburn. You got to play Alabama. You got to play Mississippi State. And then Arkansas might put a whooping on you. What are you doing, Paul?
Yeah, I'm just listening to you, Bobby. You get every year you think I just pick out a new pet coach.
You do. You pick out your pet coach.
Let's see. Who was it 2 years ago? Was that Hugh Freeze?
Yeah, that was your boy Hugh Freeze.
And what happened? Who was it last year?
It was Mullen.
Oh yeah, Dan Mullen. Yeah.
Yeah, you know who it was.
And then it was Butch Jones about 3 years ago, wasn't it?
Well, you know, I tried to tell you about Butch. You wouldn't listen.
You did try to tell me about Butch.
Yeah, I told you Butch wasn't no SEC coach. But you didn't believe.
What do you? But you like Jeremy Pruitt now because he coached at Alabama and went to Alabama, don't you?
Well, Jeremy Pruitt's a good coach.
Yeah.
Kirby's a good coach. Munchausen's a pretty good coach.
Yeah, he is. Real good coach.
Right. All of them understood of Nick Saban.
Sure they are. So is Jimbo Fisher, by the way.
Yeah.
You forgot that, didn't you?
No, but Jimbo started going downhill after Jameis Winston left. You know that, don't you?
Jimbo's doing what?
He started going downhill as a coach after Jameis Winston left.
Well, yeah, I mean, he wasn't as good. I mean, but he had the best player in the country, so that probably helped.
Right, but why did Bobby Bowden not come to the SEC?
Why did Bobby
Bowden, why did he not join the SEC when he had a chance? He told you right there on his show, on your show one day.
Oh, Bobby Bowden?
Right.
Oh, he was afraid of the SEC.
Right. He said he had a better chance of winning what, national championship in the ACC.
But Bobby, you're a smart man. Jimbo's offered all that money. I mean, what do you expect him to do?
Well, what they expect him to do when they pay him all that money to win championships.
Hey, Bobby, let me ask you a question.
What?
If I put $75 million in your bank account, you going to worry about whether you win or not?
Well, it better be, because they might run his ass up out of Texas.
Yeah, well, I mean, he'll do the best he can, but he's still got the $75 million is my point.
No, they might make him pay some of it back.
No, it's guaranteed. That's why you take jobs like that, Bobby.
Yeah. Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
What do you think about the election last night?
Well, I was fascinated by it. I mean, I watched it very closely, and obviously know everybody involved. It was fascinating to see. What about you?
It went the way I predicted it to go.
Did it?
Yeah. The power in Alabama, it ain't in Montgomery, Alabama. It's in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. You got Richard Shelby, Paul Brown Jr., and Nick Saban.
Right.
That's what the power is. But look, Paul, I'm going to say this and I'm going to let you go. After we spanked Roy Moore's ass last night, he told his followers, say, it ain't over, say, God ain't spoke. I said, well, God already spoke. You didn't hear him? Buddy.
Is that what he said? I missed that. I'd already turned off the TV. Thanks for the call. Bobby, a regular comedian. Let's check in next with Ariel in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Hello, Ariel. Good afternoon.
Hey, how you doing, Paul?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Hey, I just want to touch on, the report came out this morning that Austin Thomas is leaving LSU to go to Tennessee, and he's, a facet of our recruiting department. I was going to see, how big you think that was going to be for LSU, and then also what your thoughts are on the current state of the relationship between Coach O and Canada. Some reports have come out that, some things were rocky there.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I have not seen those reports. What exactly did it say?
Well, that was one of the things that they were saying, when Canada, his name was being tossed around that he may leave. There were some people saying that, with Coach O, filling with the playbook and stuff, that Coach, Canada may not be, as happy as he once thought was to be. So they said, he might want out of LSU. I mean, nobody took him. He didn't go anywhere. He's still there. But I was just trying to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, let me find out more about that before I give an answer, because that's the first I've heard of that. Matt Canada certainly came there with such expectations. It was a little bit rocky early in the year. I thought things cleared up, but I don't normally like to pause on a question, but since I don't know much about that alleged rift, I'll dig into that one. Chuck is up next. Chuck, thanks. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul. Listening to Rich's call, and I worked with him on a little old project for Phyllis, and I think that's a outstanding idea. And
Okay.
You could put Apex down for a team, man. That'd be something great. And I want to give a shout out to Jerome. Jerome, you better show up ready in the Sugar Bowl, because I know a man of your caliber, Jerome, will have a hard off season knowing you lost 2 in a row to a Tiger. Thank you, Paul.
That's funny. Thank you very, very, very much. Olivia is calling next. Good afternoon, Olivia.
Hi, Mr. Finebaum. How are you today?
We are doing great. Hope you are.
I'm doing wonderful. I don't know if you remember me or not, but I called about a month ago and was talking about how Jim needed to put in for coach at one of these SEC teams that was needing a coach.
Yeah, I think he turned down one job.
Well, it cracks me up with Jim calls. I like old Jim most days. I don't get to watch a TV show much, but I drive across country and I listen to you nearly every day. And I get a kick out of it when he calls, but he needs to back off the pineapple. Pineapples for fruit cocktails and fruit salads, not for pizza. I love you, Jim, but lay off the pineapple.
Well, I'll pass that along. Hey, thank you very much. Let's continue with more phone calls. Wayne is up next in St. Louis. Hello, Wayne. Good afternoon.
How you doing, Paul?
We are doing great. Thank you.
Roll Tide, my friend. If Alabama gets through Clemson, will the secondary be healthy enough to stand up to Baker Mayfield and what they're going to bring?
Wow. Let me flip it back to you. Is anyone's secondary able to stand up to Baker Mayfield?
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that.
Here's what I would say without having given that game much thought. Alabama will be first of all, Georgia's defense and Alabama's defense are on the same level. Georgia may be playing a little better right now because of the health of their. But flip it around this way. How good is Oklahoma's defense going to be against Alabama's offense?
I think the run game will take control of that game if you leave it to the Alabama offense.
Yeah, I would, as an Alabama fan, I would be more concerned about Georgia than Oklahoma.
Okay, I would love to see an all-SEC title game.
I would too, but I just think, and I'm not being critical of Oklahoma. I mean, I think they're a really good team, but their defense to me. I still remember watching that Oklahoma State game. It was, they gave up 52 points, I think.
I agree. I just wonder if they get past Georgia, what the game would be like. One more quick question.
I tell you what, it would be weird. It really would. I mean, the idea of Nick Saban facing Kirby Smart. Forget like on an October afternoon in Athens, but for the national championship would be unbelievable.
Well, that'd be awesome. Are you kidding me? As a lifetime Bama fan and watching Kirby in that game?
No, it would be amazing.
Yes. One more quick question. All the football fans, SEC fans that are watching your show today, my granddaughter was born this morning. Could you please send prayers to her? She's having difficulties in the hospital, and for every college football fan to just add her to her prayers would be awesome to me.
Just to make it a little more personal, what is her name, Wayne?
Her name is Jessie May.
Jessie May. Well, I think I don't want to be the pastor of the Finebaum Cathedral here, but I think we all will be thinking about her and praying for her, and certainly wishing you and your family the best.
Well, I most certainly appreciate it, Paul. I can't wait till I call you again. Maybe after Bama wins that national title, let's go Roll Tide.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Welcome back as we continue here. More of your calls and comments at 855-242-7285. Casey is in New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Casey. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul. Yesterday I was listening. Congratulations on the 6-iron hole-in-one at Shoal Creek. That's some hell of a shot there, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been a few years, but nice of you to say.
One of the great courses in the country, hosted a PGA, and Trevino won there. And that's anytime you could do that at a place like that, that's memorable. And also on the Rich idea with the charity, I'm all in. If I could donate equipment or if I could get down there, being it's July and my season is busy here in July, but whether I can play or not, but if I can donate something, I'm more than willing to help out the charity in any way.
Casey. We'll figure that. We'll figure it out, and I appreciate your offer.
Anything for you guys on the football coming up? I know it's 3 weeks away, but it's going to be interesting to see. You were talking yesterday about the ratings. Georgia, Alabama, maybe in the final. I think I don't know if that would be a poor rating game. I think everybody's intrigued about Alabama being at their 4 seed and getting into the playoffs, and then Georgia, basically dominating an entire year, except for maybe one bad half against Auburn, my team. But be one hell of a game if that was the final, especially for the SEC and our show. Your show, all the fans watching. It'd be one hell of a week of banter. So I'm rooting for that game. Hopefully,
I can't imagine what that week would be like here. It would be just unbelievable.
Yeah, it'd be phenomenal. That would be a game. I would go to that game for sure. I would, especially this time of year, I could do it. So anyway, I'm in for the charity and love watching the show as usual. Thanks for taking the call.
What a pleasure to hear from you, Casey. Casey, who's a PGA professional in New Jersey, calling us on this cold winter day up there. Thank you very, very much. William is in Nevada, and you are next up. William, go right ahead.
Hey, Paul. Good afternoon. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks a lot.
Good. Well, I'm a longtime listener, a big fan. I just got a couple comments and then a question for you and your guys. First off, I got to go on the record. I think the Dogs are going to smoke Oklahoma. I think their defense is just too good, and I think Oklahoma's defense is just not that good. Secondly, I wanted to say that as a prior athlete, it really blows my mind when coaches and players aren't excited about playing in a bowl game, regardless of what the bowl game is. Just as a competitor, the opportunity to play in another game, I would think, would just be motivation enough. And then lastly, my question for you guys is, what do you guys think about these players that sit out of these bowl games?
I think it really depends. I did not have a problem last year with Fournette, who was banged up, McCaffrey, who was banged up. I don't like a player who just sits out because he doesn't want to get hurt. But I certainly understand it. Some of the bowl games, just let's be honest, are laughable.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking my call,
very much.
Paul, and have a great day.
Great to hear from you. Good to hear. Good stuff. Let's continue. Casey is in Louisiana. Casey, thank you. Good afternoon.
Hello, Paul.
Hey there.
Enjoying your show.
Thanks
and
a lot.
I watch it just about every day that I can. I enjoy. What I wanted to say was a while ago y'all was talking about a guy from Louisiana about the coaches and about how Jimbo Fisher, and before he took over at Florida State, Bobby Bowden, before he took over at Florida State, why he didn't come to a Southeastern Conference school. Just for a little bit of history, back in 1979, LSU was seeking a coach. And LSU's first pick choice was Bo Ryan, the one that got killed,
right,
which LSU actually took. And Bobby Bowden was number 2 on that list.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yes, sir. And Bobby Bowden wanted to come to LSU. He wanted to come here. The simple reason was they was in the middle of they were playing Florida State. LSU was playing Florida State for 5 years in a row. Florida State, and when Bobby Bowden first went there, he chose to play most of his games on the road. He wasn't choice about having home games. And those 5 years, all 5 games was at Tiger Stadium. They was not in Florida State. And so and Florida State won 4 of the 5 games. LSU won the first one, but after that, they didn't win a single game in that series. Just something I wanted to pass along to you for history.
Well, thank you. And by the way, Casey, one more addendum to that. In 1987, Bobby Bowden was interviewed for the Alabama job, wanted it, thought he had it, lost it. It ended up going to Bill Curry.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Curry didn't imagine how LSU or Alabama's history would be different. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. I interviewed the night Bowden didn't get it. I interviewed a board of trustee member at Alabama, and he said, "Well, we really like Coach Bowden. We just thought maybe he was a little too old, had a little too much baggage." Over the next 14 years, Bobby Bowden at Florida State never finished lower than number 4 in the final AP poll. Won a couple of national championships. Let's check out Larry, who is in Sweet Home, Alabama.
Yeah, baby. Hey, check it out, Paul. I figured Jim's favorite toppings, a couple of them be, let's see, liar, double dose of that, and an egotistical maniac. That's another topping. But listen, Big Ten John, glad to see you back. Would you look over at Mark and tell him just because he's redheaded don't make him Irish?
Just because you're redheaded doesn't make you Irish.
That's right.
I'm red-bearded, Larry. Red-bearded.
Red-headed. You got red hair. You probably dyed it, or you trying to. But them boys of yours, Notre Dame's going down, Jack. LSU's going to romp and stomp on them. Now, what do you say about that, Jack?
You want to make a little wager?
Yeah,
like
baby.
You have to what's a good wager for Larry on this?
He's got to come on and sing the Notre Dame Irish
there
fight
it
song.
is. You have to sing. If Notre Dame wins, you have to come on and sing the fight song.
Yeah, I'll sing. I can sing now.
I bet you can.
I used to.
Voice of an angel.
My favorite song, Got Out of My Heart, Can't Get Out of My House Trailer. That's my favorite song. But check it out. Yeah.
Who sang that one?
Yeah. And we're going to play golf. See that Rich is thinking. Big Ten John, you ain't going to do that on me, are you?
No, Larry, I'll play from the tips and you play from the senior tees.
Ooh. I play up as far as I can. And just like the man said, play up and have fun. But I'm going to play up and have vengeance. I'm going to pound you about 5 or 10 strokes, Jack. You're going to be begging for mercy. Go, please, Larry, no more Larry from Shelby. Roll Tide. You still there? Hello? Yeah, hung up on me again. Yeah.
Joe, thanks for the time. You come highly recommended.
Well, thanks for having me, Paul. It's an honor to be on your show.
So, Joe, you're a 4-time pizza champion. Is that like is that like winning the Nathan's hot dog eating contest? What does that mean?
It's not eating. It's more or less cooking.
Making?
Making. I don't eat it. I'm a 2-time Guinness World Record holder and a 4-time World Pizza Champion.
Okay, I get it. That sounds cool. So you're a New Yorker, right?
Yes, sir. Born and raised.
So give us the backstory. I mean, I think I understand most people from New York since my family's from New York, but at what age did you start learning the vagaries of pizza?
Oh, when I was in my teens, early teens, about 13, I started as a busboy back in New York, and I worked my way up through the years, and finally made it to making a pizza. And my in-laws, my sister's family, got me started, and they were right off the boat from Italy. They didn't give me any recipes, so I had to learn from scratch.
Tell me this, because I'm in New York a lot. I'm going to be there soon. Where's the best place to eat pizza in New York?
John's.
Is that the one in near the theater district?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the original.
Yeah, I've eaten there. I will tell you, I've eaten there twice, and I have to agree with you. The pizza there is better than any place I've ever eaten pizza.
Yeah, there's not even a second I would even give you a recommendation to go to. It's like asking somebody who do they like, Alabama, Auburn. It's not going to be one or the other. It's not going to be both of them.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I've eaten a lot of places. Pizza is one of my favorite foods, even though people don't think I eat. So what about pineapple on pizza?
Putting pineapple on pizza is like asking an Alabama fan to wear an Auburn jersey all day or an Auburn fan to wear an Alabama fan. Some things you just don't do. And putting pineapples on pizza is one of them. I can't say it any more clearer than that.
Well, John and Mark, are you guys around? Because you're the guys eating pineapple on pizza.
I will take total blame for this. I'm the one in the control room standing up for the pineapple.
Salty and sweet. He's a big salty and sweet.
I like the salty, and the pineapple adds a little bit of sweetness to the pizza. But to Mark's credit, you said you didn't like it.
I'm not a fan.
And the 4-time world pizza champion says no pineapple on the pizza. So maybe from this point moving forward, I won't order pineapple on my pizza.
Well, and Jim started it, by the way.
There's a million more toppings you can put on a pizza, but pineapple is just not one of those million things that I would ever suggest to try. Paul, have you ever had pineapple on pizza?
So let me. You moved to Alabama, correct?
Yes, sir.
Always curious. Athens, Alabama is North Alabama, not too far from Huntsville, right?
Right, correct.
Okay. What brought you to Alabama?
Tatora's restaurant in Hampton Cove. The owner hired me as a consultant, and I came down about 10 years ago, and I loved it. The Southern hospitality just brought me down even more.
And do I understand correctly? You now have a pizza place in Athens?
Yeah, Joe's World Famous Pizzeria right across from Chick-fil-A on 72 in Athens, Alabama. I call that my home now.
So would you say your pizza is comparable to New York pizza?
I would say my pizza is a step up of New York pizza because I'm over here making it. It's very close to the style you're going to get in New York. In fact, we'd love to make you one day.
Oh, I'd love it. But by the way, as a pizza aficionado, what? Forget the pineapple. Nobody in their right mind would put pineapple on pizza. But what's the key to a great pizza?
The sauce and the crust. It's the combination. You need. People don't realize a lot of pizza guys, they're chemists. It's not just flour, water. It's a lot of science stuff going behind the scenes to make the perfect crust, to get that light, fluffy feel when you bite into it.
I mean, I've always wondered about serving a pizza because, to me, I want that pizza to be steaming hot when I get it, but too often it's not when you're at a restaurant. How do you overcome that?
Well, we have a wood-fired oven that cooks up to 900 degrees, so it only takes about a minute and 20 seconds to cook, and when it comes out, it's piping hot. You can't even eat it.
Okay.
In fact, we have a mobile wood-fired oven. I would love to come down to your radio station and just make you guys some real pizza one day.
Are you kidding? I mean, these two guys in the other room. I mean, they were eating. With all due respect, what was the name of that pizza, Mark and John?
Hungry Howie's. Yeah.
Hungry Howie's.
Hungry Howie's?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to comment on that. I'll plead the fifth on that, Paul.
Okay. And Jim called earlier. He had just gotten a Domino's, which, again, I get it. So
we will come down with our truck.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
We have a mobile wood-fired, and we will make these gentlemen pizza without pineapple, though. That's the only catch.
I eat cheese pizza. I'll put a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to. I'm not. My wife eats pepperoni. What are the best toppings to lock in the best flavor of a pizza?
Pepperoni, sausage, mushrooms. We have a pizza called the Rolling Tide. It has mushrooms, peppers, onions, meatball, sausage, and pepperoni. And then we have a pizza That's called the Albi, which is mushroom peppers, banana peppers, green tomatoes, and red onions.
Okay.
But the most popular one is probably the Supreme. But I would say, for me personally, pepperoni, and we use a sweet Italian sausage. We get all of our meats from Chicago, so they're really high-quality meats that we get.
Now, again, I'm not a connoisseur. I like cheese pizza, maybe one topping, usually not. But, Joe, when you start piling all these other toppings on, doesn't it take away from the sauce? Doesn't it take away from the taste?
I'm with you. For me personally, I like cheese. But when you have a good mixture of toppings and good flavors, it actually is really good. And, mushrooms, sausage, pepperoni, and peppers, people like it. It's a good flavor. It's a good combination. So when you're biting into that, you're getting all those flavors. Me personally, I'm like you. I like a simple cheese pizza. When I go to another pizza place, I like to eat just a cheese pizza because I like to really see how the sauce is, how the cheese is, and how the dough is, and how the crust is crunchy or not.
Okay. And by the way, before we go, your place is in, what's the name of your place again in Athens?
Joe's World Famous Pizzeria in Athens, Alabama.
Okay. Is that right off the interstate?
It's right on. It's about a quarter mile down from the interstate, right down the road. You're welcome here anytime, Paul. Anytime. We'd love to make you a cheese pizza. No pineapple, though.
Well, listen, this has been fun. Joe, you're the official Finebaum Show pizza expert. We will be calling on you often.
I appreciate it. And roll Eagle, Paul.
You got it. Hey, thanks so much. Wednesday afternoon, let's continue with more calls. And Ronnie is in Tennessee. What do you say, Ronnie?
Hey, what's going on, Paul?
We are doing well. Thank you.
Hey, you remember me, don't you? My Aunt Lee was with you at the University of Tennessee.
Oh, I sure do remember her. Yeah, we worked. We worked together.
Yeah. I talked to my Aunt Lee, Paul, and she said that y'all are friends on Facebook. She said just go ahead and message her on Facebook, and she'll get her number to you, Paul.
Well, I will do that immediately. Thank your Aunt Lee for letting me know.
Yeah, no problem, Paul. I told you I'd get back to you. Well, I'm a fourth-time caller, Paul, so I guess I'm a regular on the show now. But I was just going to talk to you about a few things today. I was going to ask you what you thought about Dan Mullen at Florida, and you think he'll be a good fit at Florida.
I think Dan is one of the better coaching hires of the offseason. I mean, he's a phenomenal coach. He was the second-best coach in the SEC behind Nick Saban, and he's still one of the best coaches around.
Yeah, I think he'll do a great job down at Florida. And I wanted to say one more thing, too, Paul. I'm the ISS teacher here at the local high school at Cloudland High School here in Rome Mountain, Tennessee, and I'm very involved in the sports program. And I wanted to shout out our head football coach, Mike Lunsford, and our head basketball coach, Gary Harrison, and our principal, Lisa Benfield. They do a great job with the kids, and we've got, for a small 1A school, Paul, we've got one of the best athletic programs in the state, Paul.
Well, that is fantastic. Ronnie, thanks. Give my best to your aunt, and call again very soon. Really good to hear from you. Let's continue. Marilyn is in Florida. Marilyn, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Paul. Do you remember me calling in a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, you've been doing very, very good.
I think of you every time I enunciate.
Say last or just?
Last. I have gotten better.
Yes, you have.
Marilyn corrected me from a lazy lass.
From a lazy tongue lass.
I'll tell you what, Marilyn,
right.
if we could spend a couple hours together, I might actually be a decent broadcaster.
You are an awesome broadcaster. I love you. I was laughing. I was just having a good time when my husband came in from work a few minutes ago, and he goes, "Who are you laughing at?" I said, "Oh, you caught me with my boyfriend."
Oh.
Sorry, Paul Finebaum.
Well, he's listen. You really have help, and the problem that you have to be reminded of things that you're doing, and there are a number of words, number of phrases that
right.
You just tend to mangle when you talk as much as I do, but.
Yes,
I do think I remember. It was a Friday afternoon. I remember the call. I remember where I was. And I have gotten better. Still not perfect.
No, well, none of us are perfect. We're the only imperfect, person. But
there's some very good speakers,
awesome.
which I'm striving to be.
Well, you are doing very well, Paul. You are doing very well. I just wanted to give you a shout-out how good I thought you were doing, and also wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year if I don't talk to you again.
Marilyn, thank you. You made my day. Tell your husband that give us just a little bit of time every couple of weeks.
That's right. I will.
I'll be ready for the remake of the King's Speech. So
okay, that sounds great.
Thank you very much, Meryl. Have a Merry Christmas.
You too. Thank you.
Wonderful to talk to you. Lou is in Memphis, walking in Memphis on a Wednesday afternoon.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
My feet 10 feet off of Beale. Is that what the line is? Something like that.
Something like that.
Okay, Lou. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. You?
I am doing well, all things considered.
Well, I've been under the weather the last couple of weeks, so I didn't have an opportunity to call during the coaching folly at UT. And probably if I had, you would have banned me from the show. So it's probably a good thing.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, but anyway, I wanted to tell you, if you're ever in New York, go eat at Bleecker Street Pizza. It's on the corner of Bleecker Street and Houston, which is pronounced Houston everywhere but in New York.
By the way, I'm glad you told me that, because there was another restaurant on that street, and I think I said to somebody, have you ever been to so-and-so on Houston? And they looked at me like, are you crazy? What are you talking about?
Houston.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But Rich and called earlier today.
That's kind of in lower Manhattan, isn't it? Or
right, it's West Village. Village.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My oldest works for American Express right across from the Freedom Tower, so we spend a lot of time over there. And believe me, she lives in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, so between Williamsburg and the Freedom Tower, that's the best pizza I've ever had in New York.
Well, no, I haven't eaten there, but I have eaten at the other place. Of course, Memphis, I grew up on pretty good pizza there as well.
Yeah, Pete and Sam's, I was going to tell you, they had a fire. They're closed.
Oh, they closed? That was our go-to place in high school.
But they'll be back in January. But they had a fire the other night, and they had to close.
They had very thin pizza, and they used to cut it in quarters or something, didn't they? It was really something really weird. Now, this was a long time ago. But
right, it hadn't changed since 1974.
Yeah,
I assure you.
Yeah, I mean, just to show you how the guys in the other room will be laughing. I mean, we would go out at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and eat pizza. But then again, I was 16 years old, so.
Yeah, well, everybody did. That was the hangout.
Yeah.
So, But I'm calling to be a VFF, volunteer for Finebaum.
Okay.
So if there's anything that I can do to help Rich and you put that thing together in Atlanta with the golf tournament, I'm offering you my services. I have project management skills that I think could help out. So,
well, listen, I've got your number, and there are a couple of things. I appreciate Rich just dropping it on me right in the middle of the show, considering I was with him for about 3 hours 2 weeks ago. But that's okay. We'll figure something out. Those things are complicated, but not impossible.
Well, charity work is actually a lot of fun. For those who don't do a lot of charity work, it is actually a lot of fun. I love doing it. It's been a while since I've gotten involved in anything, but I sure would love to get involved in that. And anything I can do, you please let me know. I'm sorry if I put you on the spot.
Oh, no. Being on the spot is part of my job.
Oh, well, okay, then good. We're all on the same page then. So,
Lou, so other than that, are you pleased with the Tennessee hire?
Well, I think it was a safe hire for Fulmer. I don't want to sound like Bill O'Reilly. I don't want to hear any platitudes. I don't want to hear anybody bloviating. I just want this guy to get down to work. I don't want to hear about brick by brick and champions of life. I just want him to put up, shut up, and do a good job. That's all I want.
Yeah,
that's all I want.
And I talked to a friend of mine in Knoxville today, and Fulmer apparently is now very popular. But you expect that, don't you?
Right. I mean, I think he kind of calmed the fan base. It was something calming about him being introduced as the athletic director after the complete joke of a search had happened.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get started on that because, like I said, you probably banned me.
Paul Finebaum here. In the South, we love football and Crystal. The hot off the grill Crystal burger is the perfect complement to any tailgate. Take a steamer pack of 24 Crystals to your tailgate. Why didn't I think of that? Plus, Crystal knows you love wings. Barbecue or buffalo wings, Crystal is the stop for all of your cravings this fall. Text Paul, that is Paul, to 37793, and Crystal will hook you up with 2 free Crystals. Nobody does football like the South, and nobody does tailgates like Crystal. Glad you're with us. Been an entertaining show, and let's continue. How about Michael in South Carolina? Michael, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Michael, you there?
I am here.
Well, good. Glad you made it.
Good afternoon. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you. I am.
I live here in the part of the South where in South Carolina you're either basically a Carolina or a Clemson fan. And all of the people I know that are Carolina fans, they kind of hang on the coattails of Alabama to get their self-worth, it seems. And I keep hearing all this conversation about Bama and Oklahoma, Bama and Georgia. And I personally think it's going to come down to Clemson and Georgia for the national championship. And I think the Dome in Atlanta is going to be rocking because I miss the days that Clemson and Georgia played each other every year.
Yeah,
those are some of the best games.
You're right.
And that's why I hate that they stopped it.
I think I may have been at the last one. It was 4 years ago at Clemson. Georgia played there in the opener. I'm pretty sure that was the last time they played, and it was amazing. I mean, that's a great rivalry. They played so many times on big stages, but nothing would compare to this one.
And usually it came down to probably 7 points or less just about every year.
No, it's not only important rivalry. From a recruiting standpoint, it's a very important. I mean, these schools pretty much bump into each other, and a lot of players look at both. Hey, thank you very much for the call, Greg in Athens, Alabama, the centerpiece of the show today. Hello, Greg.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe Carlucci's not only a great pizza maker, but he's a great individual. You get the chance to meet him.
I can't wait. No, I'm going to find my way to his pizza place one of these days.
Yeah, if you're coming north from Nashville, you just take the right exit on the 72, and he's right there on the left-hand side. And I can't eat a lot of pizza, but when I do, it's Joe. Joe's the bomb. So
I can and I will. So
I'm just glad that I was able to get you guys together. Anyways, I had a question about Jeremy Pruitt, and this made me think about when Kirby Smart left, when he was still there as the new Georgia coach. When he's making visits, or is he only making visits as a Tennessee guy, or does he still have contact with Alabama recruits?
No. The moment you take another job, you're done recruiting. They're not going to let you recruit.
Right. Okay. And because I know there's been talk on a lot of different news sites about how his departure going to impact Alabama's recruiting. I don't know that it's going to have a major impact at all, but I just thought about that because I know when Kirby left, there was some acrimony over some of the people that he.
You're right about that, and but you know what? That's going to happen here too. There's no way you can avoid it. We're talking about one of the most competitive industries in the world in terms of in terms of sports, I should say. And he knows these players already, and whether you want to say it's unethical or not, it's just what you do.
Right. Well, I guess we'll find out here shortly what's going to happen. The other thing, last thing I wanted to say before I let you go is we've heard from Jim twice today, but I may have missed it, but normally when Jim calls, you have an obligatory squirrel call, and they become a sort of a fixture of each other. Maybe they ought to do a radio show. Well,
that shouldn't be hard to get a radio show. Pretty much everyone in America has one these days.
Well, they could at least do a blog or a podcast.
That's probably a more accurate statement. I mean, I literally walk down the street. My postal worker has a podcast.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm glad I could get Joe with you guys. When he brings that oven down there, it's all about good times. And I hope that you guys have a chance to meet.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Always great to hear from you. Let's continue with more calls. Eric is in California. Good afternoon.
Hey, what's up, Paul? How you doing today?
We are doing great.
That's awesome. I just wanted to give a shout-out real quick to my USC family, Jill and Joe. I love you guys. And Claudia, rest in peace. Go Trojans, fight on. But the theme today, Paul, seems to be about pizza. And I'm going to ask you, have you ever had Donato's Pizza?
I have. I sure have.
Isn't that the best pizza ever?
It is very good.
But I also wanted to make a case for my best friend Leo and his wife Leanne. They're diehard OU fans, and I was listening to you earlier. And I believe OU is clearly the number one team in the country. And I think the question you should ask is if Alabama or Georgia has a chance against them. And here's my position on why they don't.
Okay.
They both have a common opponent of Auburn, who got beat by LSU, who got beat by Troy. And when you're talking about Oklahoma's defense, having played Mason Rudolph and Hill from TCU, do you really think that defense is worried about a freshman named Jake Fromm? Go ahead, Paul.
Good stuff. I mean, listen. I understand that argument, but I also, it's a good one, and I'm not scoffing at it, but I'm a bigger believer in Georgia than you are.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't going to call you, Paul, but I was, earlier when you started talking about, it felt like you were saying that you thought that Georgia or Alabama you felt was stronger than Oklahoma, and I just thought, man, I got to give Paul a call on that because I don't see them even being in the game. Clemson, I think, is, arguably I agree that they're, number one, number two, Oklahoma, Clemson, but Alabama and Georgia, I just think the SEC is down this year, and I don't see
listen, I understand the SEC's down. They have 3 of the top 7 schools in the country.
You got me on that, Paul. You got me on that. You did.
Well,
and what do you think? You really think that I heard your caller earlier, I can't remember who it was, who was really believing that LSU was going to beat Notre Dame, even in that game. I mean, I look for Notre Dame probably to win that game big.
Yeah, listen, Eric, the only thing I will say about this time of the year, and I get it, I mean, what else do we have to do but other than look at the matchups and use whatever expertise we have? However,
right.
the layoff does have an impact. You just don't know how a team is going to react after spending a month off. I've seen crazy things in the playoffs, as you have. I've seen even crazier things in bowl games. I'm not trying to just say, oh, hey, by the way, anything can happen. That's ridiculous. I was watching some show yesterday, and they asked an expert, well, who do you think is going to win? The guy said, well, I don't know. I mean, you never know. I mean, well, that's what experts are supposed to do. They're supposed to give you an opinion. They're not supposed to tell you you never know. I get what you're saying. I do, but I just happen to disagree.
And Paul, hey, real quick too, because I know you're always pressed for time. I would have to say that I agree with you if I understood you right. Those players like Christian McCaffrey and Lawrence and Fournette, that rubs me the wrong way. I could understand if you're hurt and you really don't want to play in the game.
No, I mean, Eric, bowl games. I try to put yourself in the position of these players, and you're playing in the famous famous Idaho Potato Bowl on a Tuesday at 1:00 in the middle of nowhere, and I mean, if you're hurt or if you're banged up.
Well, no, that's what I mean, Paul. That's what I mean, Paul. I get it if you're hurt.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the guys that are saying that they're just not playing in the game.
Well, again,
because they're a senior. And my point on that is when you go to a university. Hold on.
Eric,
when you go to a university. When you go to a university, Paul, it's a fraternity. It's your brothers. You're a family.
Yeah. Hey,
and when you're a
let me ask you a question. Did you go to college?
Yes, I did.
Your last couple of weeks, your last couple of months, were you as engaged as your first couple of weeks?
Yes. Well, I mean, I played only a year, so.
Yeah. Well, I know. I'm not trying to relate. I mean, just related to anything. I mean, most of us didn't play at that level, but I know one thing. At some point, you're just kind of checked out, and if you're checked out, don't play. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, but it's a family. You know,
No,
those are your
well,
brothers.
is it a family? Hold on. Is it a family if your coach got fired? Is it a family if your coach left?
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. You know,
I mean,
can agree with
there are
that.
mitigating circumstances. Now, I thanks for the call. Now, I do think everything is different. Here I go running you over with cliches, but I just feel like if a player gets to a point and he doesn't want to risk injury and he's about to make millions of dollars, then good for him. You have to be careful. And I don't think, I think there are certain bowl games that really do matter. But the majority, how many bowl games are there? There are 40, 41 bowl games, something like that? I mean, are you telling me that some of these bowl games really matter? I mean, they're television events. Let's be honest. We had the guy on yesterday. They are made for TV. And if I don't want to see one of these young men, play for the old college team in some meaningless bowl game on a Tuesday afternoon before Christmas and lose his opportunity to support his family the rest of his life. That, to me, is outrageous.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Welcome back to the program. Let's continue with more phone calls at 855-242-7285. And Jeff is in South Bend. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Paul. How are you?
We are doing great. Thank you for the call.
Got three things. Pete and Sam's Pizza in Memphis.
Oh, my heart fluttering thinking about that.
Nothing better than the shrimp and sausage.
Nah, that was great stuff.
Yeah, we live down the street in Chickasaw Gardens. You know where that is?
Yes, I do. I mean, that is one of the things that everyone has a go-to place in their youth. That was just a convention in there on Friday and Saturday night.
It was great. Number two, why didn't anybody from Arkansas or Tennessee call Kevin Sumlin?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I heard someone's name was mentioned seriously for UCF, and apparently he was looking for more than they were willing to offer. Sometimes you just get I mean, again, I can't remember what's the final payoff of him, $10 million or something. So he may have decided, you know what, I'm just going to take a break. I would imagine Kevin Sumlin will be on TV this fall.
Well, I guess, but I mean, the thing that I can't figure out is you go back and look at Texas A&M history. How many coaches in their first 6 years have won more games than Kevin Sumlin did at Texas A&M? None.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
Yeah.
It was the way he finished the season, Jeff. Hey, thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it. Good to talk to you. We're back here, and we're about to talk to Pete Thamel, who we really enjoyed chatting with. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. A couple of Tennessee fans not reacting well to Pete's column on the biggest winners and losers from the 2017 college football coaching carousel. Pete, always a pleasure. Hope the end of the season has been good to you. We appreciate you being on. So. In your history of covering college football, which is extensive, with this not as extensive as mine, by the way, in terms of length, but and longevity. But how bizarre was this coaching carousel?
It was surreal, I guess would be the best way to describe it. It was just different, Paul, and I think the early signing day changed everything. So it was quicker than usual, except for Tennessee's case, and just everything happened. It was almost like predetermined, you know, in a lot of ways, because everything had to unfold fast to get to the signing day, which I guess is a week from today now. Everything just had to go a lot faster. So it was, it was sort of like orderly chaos in a timing way, and then just the way Tennessee unfolded was obviously crazy. And then, I think this will be remembered, Paul, as the year that buyouts were treated like dandruff, right? I mean, you have staggering amounts of money, and institutions are just brushing it off their shoulder. So, and then there was surprises like Herm Edwards. I know as an ESPN employee, and no one at ESPN is allowed to criticize Herm Edwards.
No, I thought it was a bizarre hire. I didn't like it at all.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, look, it could work. By all accounts, he's a good man, and certainly everybody at ESPN liked him. But even more bizarre, right, was the press release heralding his the ode to corporate jargon, the Office Space special. So it had a little bit of everything. When you really roll through it, I'm going to kind of through all the movies on my mind. I think there were 12 Power 5 jobs, and which I guess as a number isn't completely out of the ordinary. That's essentially two per power conference, right? But I think the caliber of some and the fact that there were 6 in the SEC obviously made everything a little bit more fun, Paul.
Yeah, let me ask you about Tennessee, and I'm sure you've already heard from some Tennessee fans. I read your remarks about Tennessee. I'll let you put it in your words, but I don't want to be uncharitable to you, but you didn't seem like you were very impressed, Pete.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a searing debacle from beginning to end. And what's been interesting to sort of see the evolution of the Tennessee fan base and all Twitter and whatever it is, sort of grow their confidence throughout as they realized they had more and more sway. And the chancellor at Tennessee, Beverly Davenport, who just proved totally and completely feckless. She's there her voice is quivering because she's firing John Curry, and then 30 seconds later, Phil Fulmer's like, my daughter's here, and my granddaughter, and my wife's in Toronto. It was just such a bizarre way it unfolded with so little just awareness to everything that was smoldering around them. And my point in that was simple. I will certainly give Jeremy Pruitt a chance. He obviously comes from Nick Saban, and obviously won a national title at Florida State. Was very good at Georgia, so I mean he certainly has a pedigree, but it's incomparable to think that he's as qualified as Greg Schiano, who was national coach of the year, coached 120 college games. Mike Leach has coached a lot more college games than that, and they had Mike Leach right on the line and ready to go. I mean, those are experienced, accomplished, high-end college football coaches, and they it felt like they traded in for one of their own, and they wanted to do that, and everyone's celebrating in Tennessee because they have a part of it, and just the bottom line pragmatist and analyst in me, and I'd be curious what you think, Paul, but just thinks, boy, they had 2 better football coaches that were ready to go there, and the dysfunction, and then Fulmer's ego came in and blew the second one up.
Let me start with Schiano because, as you probably could guess, because you hear all the same things, Pete, the reaction from Tennessee fans was like, we got rid of a bad guy, and we're much better off today. And I don't know, sometimes you talk yourself into that or not, but that has been a constant theme coming out of Tennessee.
No, it has, and it's surprising. Now, look, I was at the New York Times when Schiano was at Rutgers, so I saw the single worst program in major college football become a top 10 program, and consistently. I mean, I just saw the Patriots today picked up Kenny Britt. I live up in Boston now, so the Patriots have the McCourty, or one of the McCourty twins. If you look at Logan Ryan was a defensive back here for a long time. You look at the amount, the sheer volume of quality NFL players that Rutgers put out. None of whom were particularly highly recruited or ballyhooed. He had what anyone who was around college football during that time, he had a run that was considered miraculous. Now, when you take the first couple of years and you throw the record in there, it's a nose above 500. But for what he did there, it was staggering. I mean, he completely resuscitated a program that was just a mockery. And so one of the things that I've seen a couple times on Twitter and from some of the the fan media down there is that, well, no one else wanted him in this coaching cycle. Well, yeah, he tarred and feathered the guy's reputation and put on a rock that he enabled child rape or whatever the mistruth, half-truth was of that. And so, obviously, after he got tarred and feathered like that, no school was going to run out and get him. But he had been involved, Paul, in the last 2 years in Oregon when it went to Taggart, in USC when it went to Clay Helton, in South Carolina, in Miami. I mean, it was not like they took this guy out of a frozen block. He was a coveted candidate who turned down some reasonable high-end jobs just because of fit and family and different things like that. So to me and to most people around college football, the notion of him going to Tennessee was like, oh, that's a pretty good fit. They probably need someone to come in and resuscitate the culture there and really instill a program. And, Tennessee is not going to be like Alabama or Florida where you're going to live on three and dones. You need to develop. And he's certainly proven he can do that at a high level. And people forgot he recruited Florida as well as anyone when he was at Rutgers. Remember, he put the billboards up there and the whole deal. So there's real recruiting relationships in a place where Tennessee needs to be good if they're going to eventually start winning SEC games again.
Well, I mean, I certainly understand that, and there are some very concerning issues in relation to Pruitt. You compare Leach. You mentioned Schiano, and you have Jeremy Pruitt, who has been a very good coordinator, but there is a learning curve. What do you expect from him?
He could be good, Paul, but there's zero track record. That's a tough place to go and make your mistakes, right? And handle what has proven to be a pretty difficult media base and play in a league where obviously Georgia has it going again. Dan Mullen's a proven commodity, and he'll have it. You would think he'll have it going again at Florida sooner than later. So. The point in saying that he was an inferior coach for those guys is simply statistical. Like, those guys have done it for over a decade in difficult places and proven they can win, and they have a style and everything where they've shown they can do it. And look, two of the coaches in the playoffs were unproven assistants, within the last 18 months, right? And they're really good. So it is certainly possible to do that. And one of the best things Jeremy Pruitt has going for him is that the bar has been set unbelievably low, right? You can't get any worse than 0-8 in the SEC. So, incremental progress is going to be viewed as giant progress, right? But there is a lot of unknown and a lot of risk with Jeremy Pruitt, inherent to promoting a guy's first job to being a head coach in the SEC.
Final question. It got lost in the shuffle briefly because it came down on the busiest day in modern SEC history. But Jimbo Fisher leaving FSU to go to A&M, how do you judge that hire?
Yeah, well, it's funny. What else got lost that day was the Ole Miss decision was that day too,
yes.
by the NCAA. But look, Jimbo Fisher's obviously a proven, competent, really good head coach, right? He's won a national title. He's won something like 80% of his games. At least he was there going into this season. I think it's a good hire. But I also one of my friends joked with me. Well, are they give him? Does he get to bring Jameis Winston with him for $75 million? The last three seasons have been pretty flat, mediocre there. And his record the last 3 years isn't all that different than Kevin Sumlin's record the last 3 years. It's a little bit better, but not much. So. He has not had a great staff at Florida State the past couple of years, Paul. And I just think, like, when you pay a guy that much and you guarantee it, which is insane, and then you say, hey, you got to come win championships, you're setting yourself up for failure in a way. So, again, I think it's going to be fascinating. I think it adds even more juice to the SEC West, but by no means can I jump on a table and say Jimbo Fisher is going to go to Texas A&M and win multiple national championships. He just let Dabo Swinney clearly pass him and clearly pass Florida State as the best program in the ACC, and now he has to topple Nick Saban, and that's not simple.
We're late in the segment. I want to make sure you can win a few more friends in the SEC. You mentioned Ole Miss. Some have actually spun that as it could have been a lot worse. You followed this. You've broken a lot of stories on the Ole Miss case. Your final disposition on the ruling?
I think if you had asked me like 2 years ago what they'll end up getting, I probably would have said a 2-year bowl ban, which is a significant punishment. And a lot of times with these investigations, Paul, and certainly you've been around them for decades, is a lot of your punishment comes with the length of the scrutiny, and now they're obviously going to feel it with the transfers and everything. I actually thought they'd lose more scholarships. I was a little bit surprised that ended up a little bit lighter than it was. But I think that what was interesting, probably the most out of that, now that I think back about it on that crazy Friday afternoon, was that the university is still standing on a table and saying they didn't do anything wrong and didn't appreciate the NCAA's rhetoric. They are going to fight this to the very end. And, the column I wrote from that was that they basically wrote a manual of how to not handle an NCAA investigation. And to their credit, they're going to kick and scream like Mike Garrett did at USC, right into the bitter end.
Well done, Pete Thamel. Thanks so much for your time, Pete.
Paul, thank you.
We are taking your phone calls, and Tommy is in Florida. Go right ahead, Tommy. You're on the air.
Thank you, Paul. I don't know who this Yahoo Pete is, but he needs to hire a proctologist.
Pete Thamel was
he needs somebody to find his head for him, because even Butch Jones beat this Schiano guy. And Schiano was an assistant coach already. We didn't hurt his career. Obviously, he's still an assistant coach, and somebody would have hired him before now if he was that great of a coach. What do you think?
Well, I think you have to factor in where Tennessee was at this point in the coaching search. They'd already been turned down by about 4 people. So
before Schiano?
Yes. Dan Mullen,
okay.
Chip Kelly, there were some other names out there. The bottom line is that I would not have come up with Greg Schiano. You wouldn't have either, but that doesn't give people license to
now,
try
you're
to
talking about a handful of people.
Well, the handful of people, there may have been a handful of people, but those handful of people influenced state legislators, they influenced politicians, and ultimately they influenced the chancellor of the university.
Well, if they hadn't have been so secretive about trying to hire this, it would have been stopped a long time ago.
Really?
But they put Tennessee fans in a situation where somebody decided to do something drastic to try to stop it.
Well, the truth of the matter is this, Tommy. They waited for 2 days for Dan Mullen to give them a yes or a no, and then when the circumstances changed at the University of Florida, when 1 or 2 other people decided to move on, Mullen got that job, and Tennessee was left with no really good alternative. So that's why they coalesced around Greg Schiano.
I still think Jeremy Pruitt is
they only went to Schiano on that Saturday night. They hired him on Sunday, or tried to hire him on Sunday. So this wasn't something that they wanted. They put out an ad in the Knoxville paper that, hey, we're thinking about going after this guy. He was not the coach they originally wanted.
Right, and nobody knew about it until that Sunday.
But how could you have known about him since everybody was speculating about Dan Mullen?
And one other note, I tell you, I think Georgia will beat Oklahoma for the simple fact that when Mayfield scores, it will be quick. And the defense is going to be on the field a lot for Oklahoma.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the call. I do appreciate it. Let's continue with more. Frank is up next in Queens.
Hi, Paul. How are you? How's everything?
Hey, Frank.
I personally want to thank real quick the people of Alabama for bringing some decency back into life last night, and I thought they did a great job. And I'm going to root for Auburn, and I'm going to root for Alabama just because of yesterday and last night. I really want to say that. Another thing is, Paul, what do you think about Nick Saban? A lot of chatter, GM/head coach of the New York Football Giants.
Well, first of all, it's a coveted job. Second of all, 2 years ago, or maybe 3, I can't remember. Whenever Coughlin left, they made a run at Saban. He was not interested at all, and people believe because of that, the Giants will not call him again. But that was just, I think, to be the head coach. I've always thought there was a smidgen of a chance that Saban would take an NFL job if he could run the entire shop. But you tell me, you live in New York.
There's a lot of chatter.
Are you going to be able to run the New York Giants with the kind of ownership that they have?
Probably not, and that's a really good point. But if it's Nick Saban and with the fiasco they just went through right now, I think they might have some leeway because, honestly, no one was going to do anything with George Steinbrenner, but Wellington Ara is getting old. I mean, these guys are getting old, and I really think they just want to win. It was a fiasco.
No, I agree. Listen, I keep up with it. You're right. I don't think it's likely, but nothing would ever surprise me with a Nick Saban to the NFL rumor.
Because he has nothing. I mean, I don't know like what you know, but he has nothing else to do. And I think he's only. I don't know if he's envious of Belichick, but they came through the Browns together and everything like that. I think that, because Belichick is some sort of deity, especially like in the Northeast. And I really think Saban, he could turn the Giants around if given complete control.
Remember a couple of things about Saban. This is not the Nick Saban. This is Nick Saban 10 years into a job. His family's there. He's got grandchildren. He's got a business there as well. People forget that. He's got a Mercedes dealership in both Birmingham and Nashville. It doesn't mean you can't
Must be nice.
Well, sure. I mean, the guy's doing okay. I think it's an easier question to answer in 3 weeks. I say that because if Saban loses or he wins, the dynamics change a little bit. If he wins, okay, he's got 6 national championships overall. Does he want to wake up the next day and go, okay, I got to go back. I want to win another one. I mean, at some point, everyone looks for new challenges, no matter who they are, no matter how old they are. And I've always felt like Saban may or may not be one of those. From a lifestyle standpoint, I can't imagine Nick Saban trading in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Let's grab some more calls here as we begin winding things down. Angie is up next. Angie.
Yes, Paul, first-time caller.
Thank you very much.
I want to know your comment, your thoughts on the comment that Alabama limped in to the championship race.
Well, I don't agree with that at all. I thought Alabama was easily one of the 4 best teams.
Yeah, I thought so too. I think they're being cheated because we're national champions.
Well, thanks, Angie. I mean, that was John Hayes who said that, but fortunately, he's not on the committee. Jim is in Tennessee, and you are next up. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Paul. Hey, first-time caller. Enjoy your show, and thanks for taking my call.
Thank you very much.
I was I wanted to see what Pete Thamel would say. I'd read, Arkansas News like so many. I'm a UT graduate. My blood is not as orange as some of the folks here in Winchester, Tennessee, but I graduated, old-time graduate, back when they played substitution was limited.
Hey, by the way, is that where Philip Fulmer is from?
You're exactly right.
I thought so.
And Johnny Major's right down the road in Holland, Tennessee.
Right, exactly.
And friends with both of them. And saw them, went to Boys State with John's brother Joe, and my wife and I were on our honeymoon when the morning that Bob was killed.
Oh, man, that was
down in South Georgia. And but anyway, growing up with Philip, I watched him both excel in baseball and football, and I was a football referee, so I didn't get to see him play as much by the time his senior year. But saw him excel, fine young man, and did go on a couple of trips, FCA trips with the football team, Fellowship Christian Athletes. They had a fine senior class. My younger sister, graduated with Philip, and she thought an awful lot of Philip at that time too. So, but I agree with one of the callers, and maybe you said something too, that he did have a common process. And I got some years ago, I heard Philip talk at a Fellowship Christian Athletes banquet in Chattanooga, and he has talked here with our group also. But the Legacy of Winning book, and that was came out before his national championship. But they had a real good year and only lost one game the year this was. And Gerald Centel there in Knoxville or Maryville cooperated with Philip, and legacy winning, and you're probably familiar with it.
I am, and I'll say this, Jim. I don't want to be repetitive, but it was a mistake not to hire. It was a mistake not to hire Philip back in February when John Kerr. I really don't understand what the mindset was on him, but it doesn't matter now. The most important thing is that he has taken this program over, and in under 2 weeks, he has calmed everyone down, and he's brought a coach in that even critics believe is a very good, solid football coach.
I saw the interview, and I agree with you. Jeremy Pruitt's excellent. So I think give him some time. It's going to be tough, but
I think that is the issue. And you know Tennessee fans like I do. You know them better probably, but it is not an overnight job here. That's the issue, and I just hope that 2 years from now, if things haven't gone that well, fans can just take a deep breath and go, okay, this is the right coach. I don't know whether he will be or not. I hope he is.
Well, I hope so too. Absolutely, and made some mistakes along the line.
But one thing that I think he has, meaning Jeremy Pruitt, that Butch Jones didn't have. Butch Jones did not have anybody to lean on. I mean, let's be honest. Dave Hart was an athletic director. He was not a mentor like I think Philip Fulmer can be. And these two are joined at the hip, and I think Philip Fulmer is going to have the time of his life trying to help Jeremy Pruitt prepare for this job.
Right, and I disagree with Pete Thamel's article in reference to Philip just wanting to get back in and taking over things.
You're right.
No,
I think
he's not that kind of
Jim.
individual.
He did it because his school needed him. I think that's exactly. Thanks so much for being with us. Thanks to everyone for being a part of the show. The podcast available on the app and the Apple Podcast.